Introduction, Little Buddies Master. If we encounter that kind of situation again, don't worry about the others, let Xiao Bai and I handle it. Xiao Hei's eyes gleamed with a serious and stubborn light. He understood that the reason why the master didn't let him and Xiao Bai fight was because of concern for their safety. But seeing their master hurt, they felt even more sad. This feeling of powerlessness made them go crazy, especially Xiao Bai. Yes, we can't always do this. Everyone will know sooner or later. Xiao Bai said seriously, looking at the serious glint in Xiao Hei and Xiao Bai's eyes. Bailey Hongzhuang also saw a hint of contemplation in their eyes. Not to mention other things. Just the news that she was able to contract 3 beasts by herself would shock many people. Xiao Hei and Xiao Bai's strength is so outstanding, they would shock everyone even more. However, she also understands Xiao Hei and Xiao Bai's thoughts. Even Bai Shi is well known by everyone, but they are invisible. Xiao Hei and Xiao Bai must feel uncomfortable inside. Indeed, she should not continue to hide them anymore. Xiao Hei and Xiao Bai should also appear openly to everyone. Just when Bailey Hongzhuang was about to speak, Di Beichen returned with a meal. Xiao Hei and Xiao Bai swooped back to Bailey Hongzhuang's head a second before Di Beichen appeared. Only Bai Shi was still beside Bailey Hongzhuang. Seeing this, Bailey Hongzhuang was even more deeply moved. Xiao Hei and Xiao Bai were also her partners. The previous treatment was indeed unfair to Xiao Hei and Xiao Bai. Looking at Bailey Hongzhuang's thoughtful expression, Di Beichen couldn't help asking, "Wife, what are you thinking about?" Bailey Hongzhuang smiled and said, "Beichen, come here first." With a faint smile on the corners of Di Beichen's lips, he walked over and sat down on the edge of Bailey Hongzhuang's bed. "Wife, what do you want to tell me?" "Beichen, I want to introduce 2 of my little friends to you." Hearing this, Di Beichen's eyes showed a hint of surprise. "Little friends?" Di Beichen gaze scanned the room. There was no one else in the room except him and his wife. Could it be that the opponent's strength is so strong that he even escaped his perception? Bailey Hongzhuang nodded slightly, and the next moment, she reached out and grabbed Xiao Hei and Xiao Bai off her head and said, "It's these 2. She trusts Di Beichen enough. Since they have already decided to be together, she doesn't want to hide anything from him anymore. Xiao Hei and Xiao Bai were surprised by Bailey Hongzhuang's actions. Although they had expressed their thoughts to their master earlier, they did not expect the master to decide so quickly. After Bailey Hongzhuang's gesture, Xiao Hei and Xiao Bai gradually became the same size as the white lion. Di Beichen looked at the suddenly enlarged Xiao Hei and Xiao Bai in front of him, with a deep look of surprise in his eyes. This is. His deep eyes as vast as the sea were full of unspeakable shock. Even Di Beichen felt that this scene was truly shocking. He had noticed the black and white bead flowers on Bailey Hongzhuang's hair before, but he just thought that she just liked these bead flowers a lot, and he never thought much about it. But who would have thought that these 2 bead flowers would be 2 monsters? This is too shocking. The soft cushion back then? Let me introduce you. This is Xiao Hei, and this is Xiao Bai. They are my contract beasts just like Bai Shi. Bailey Hongzhuang stroked the fluffy heads of Xiao Hei and Xiao Bai with an elegant and perfect smile on her face. Di Beichen looked at Xiao Hei and Xiao Bai in front of him. At first glance these 2 little guys looked like 2 fluffy balls, but upon closer inspection, he noticed that both of them had noses and eyes and were very cute. "Hongzhuang, you said that the black one is called Xiao Bai, and the white one is called Xiao Hei?" Di Beichen couldn't help but be surprised when he heard the names of Xiao Hei and Xiao Bai. These names are the opposite of their appearance. The smile in Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes deepened. "That's right, I gave them their names." Hearing this, Di Beichen nodded slightly. This is indeed very creative. Seeing Di Beichen's expression, Bailey Hongzhuang understood that Di Beichen was very frustrated with these 2 names, but she was very satisfied with these 2 names. "Do you mean that you have 3 contracted beasts?" A serious look appeared in Di Beichen's eyes. He did not miss the point of Bailey Hongzhuang's words. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded slightly. "That's right, Xiao Hei, Xiao Bai, and Bai Shi are all my contracted beasts, but I thought it would be shocking if the news got out, so I didn't say it all the time. There is no need to keep hiding it." Di Beichen frowned slightly. Almost everyone on the Shengxian continent knows about contracted beasts. But similarly, Everyone knows that a cultivator can only contract with a single contracted beast. That's why cultivators are especially careful when making a contract with a magical beast, because they only have one chance in a lifetime. Once you have missed the opportunity, there will be no room for any changes in the future. However, Bailey Hongzhuang was able to contract 3 beasts? This news was too shocking. This news is indeed surprising. When did you contract Xiaohei and Xiaobai? Although Di Beichen was very surprised by the news, he always believed that the world is big and anything can happen. However, when looking at Xiaohei and Xiaobai, Di Beichen felt a familiarity, as if he had seen these 2 little guys somewhere before. Why do I feel that these 2 little guys are very familiar? Di Beichen furrowed his eyebrows. When did he meet them before? Hearing Di Beichen's words, Bailey Hongzhuang was slightly startled, and then the smile in her eyes deepened again. Speaking of which, Di Beichen, Xiaohei, and Xiaobai have indeed seen each other before. Suddenly, Di Beichen's eyes froze, and an incredible light flashed in his eyes. Wife, when you and I met for the first time, that cushion. Haha. After Di Beichen's comment, Bailey Hongzhuang couldn't help but chuck. It seems that your memory is very good. At that time, she used Xiaohei and Xiaobai to catch Di Beichen, but everyone thought that Xiaohei and Xiaobai were just a cushion, and no one thought much about it. Seeing that Bailey Hongzhuang confirmed his guess, Di Beichen's expression of surprise increased. He never thought that it was actually like this. I made a contract with Xiaohei and Xiaobai before we met, and they were the ones who have accompanied me all this time. Bailey Hongzhuang had a warm and bright smile on her lips. Because Xiaohei and Xiaobai had been by her side all this time, she never felt alone. Don't move, I'll feed you. So before you contracted by sure, you already had 2 contracted beasts? Di Beichen was a little surprised. Although contracted beasts are known to all cultivators of the Shengxian continent, it was very difficult for an ordinary cultivator to successfully find even one contracted beast. With Bailey Hongzhuang's status in the general's mansion back then, not to mention contracting 2 beasts, she normally would not have even seen the shadow of a contracted beasts. It seems that Bailey Hongzhuang must be some unknown secrets. However, Di Beichen was not concerned about these secrets. Bailey Hongzhuang was willing to tell him about Xiaohei and Xiaobai, which already proved her trust in him. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded lightly. That's right, Beichen. Do you know if there are people in the Shengxian continent who can contract more than 1 beast? According to what Xiaohei and Xiaobai said, she is the master of the Ring of Chaos, so there is no limit to the number of contracted beasts. There is no doubt that the Shengxian continent of today is vastly different from the one 1,000 years ago, and she is not ignorant of the situation in this regard. Di Beichen thought for a moment and shook his head slightly. As far as I know, a cultivator can only contract 1 beast. So far I have never seen a cultivator who can contract more than 1 beast except you. However, having this ability is undoubtedly a great thing for you. At least you have many helpers. Di Beichen's eyes were filled with admiration. Hongzhuang always managed to amaze him. This kind of ability that he had never seen before could also appear in Hongzhuang. Hearing this, Bailey Hongzhuang smiled lightly. So far, her 3 contracted beasts are stronger than her. As the master, she is under a huge amount of pressure. Di Beichen assessed Xiaohei and Xiaobai, and he could faintly sense some fluctuations from these 2 little fellows. It seems that these 2 little guys are also very strong. Thinking of this, Di Beichen also feels a little relieved. If his wife always has a lot of help around her, at least the danger will be been reduced a lot. Beichen, Xiaohei, Xiaobai and Bai Sure are also hungry, can you? Before Bailey Hongzhuang finished speaking, Di Beichen understood. I'll send someone to prepare something immediately. Xiaohei and Xiaobai looked at each other, and their eyes flashed with excitement. Judging from this attitude, there is no need for them to hide from now on. Haha. Xiaohei and Xiaobai rolled around excitedly. They are finally able to reappear in public. Di Beichen brought the food to Bailey Hongzhuang. When Bailey Hongzhuang was about to take the food, she felt some pain in her arm. Don't move, I'll feed you. Hearing Di Beichen's domineering yet gentle words, Bailey Hongzhuang blushed a little. No one had ever fed her before. What's more, this person is Di Beichen. Xiaohei, Xiaobai, and Bai Shi all looked at Bailey Hongzhuang with a narrow gaze. This kind of atmosphere is really ambiguous. You. Bailey Hongzhuang glared at the three beasts. These three guys were not usually excited about things like this. Xiao He, Xiao Bai and Bai Shi immediately raised their paws to cover their eyes. I can't see, I don't see anything. There was a helpless light in Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes. Their paws were open wide, clearly not blocking their eyes, okay? Seeing this, Bewitching couldn't help but chuckle. The three contracted beasts of his lady are really lively. Poisoned, Nangong Aochen. While Bailey Hongzhuang was recuperating, news spread that Nangong Aochen was seriously ill. The group was at a loss. Even the alchemist masters of the Alchemist Guild were unable to think of a solution. This disease is truly rare. No matter how much they researched, they could not solve it. After the news spread, everyone was surprised. They didn't know how the good crown prince could have such a strange disease. Only members of the royal family knew that Nangong Aochen fell into such a situation because of the elixir fed to him by Bailey Hongzhuang. Today, Nangong Aochen is already delirious, and his body is losing weight at an extremely rapid rate. If a cure cannot be found, then Nangong Aochen is likely to die. This news is undoubtedly a bolt from the blue for the Qingxiao Kingdom royal family. Nangong Aochen is understood to be the best successor of the Qingxiao Kingdom royal family. No matter what the aspect is, he is a best choice. However, now that Nangong Aochen has fallen into such a situation and Nangong Xiujia has been assassinated, if Nangong Aochen cannot recover, then there will really be no suitable candidate for the next ruler of Qingxiao Kingdom. A cheerful smile appeared on Xia Jiqing's face. Those who persist in doing evil will self-destruct. What the royal family of Qingxiao Kingdom did was so disgusting. Nangong Aochen deserves to have ended up this way. I can't wait for Nangong Aochen to die. Whenever I think of Nangong Aochen and Nangong Oi's appearance that day, I can't help but want to kill them myself. Zhang Yunfeng's voice was resolute. The huge royal family actually wanted to kill them, just to create a favorable image for Nangong Aochen. Even though it has been a few days, she can still vividly remember the original situation, and her hatred for Qingxiao Kingdom could not be quelled. Not only Zhang Yunfeng, Cui Haoyan, and the others did not have the slightest positive impression of Nangong Aochen, and the others. If the other party died, they would feel happy. In that situation back then, the royal family completely oppressed people with their power, and didn't even take their lives into consideration. Most importantly, they didn't do anything wrong, and the royal family's actions were totally unacceptable. Bailey Hongzhuang's expression is calm. Among all people, she probably hates the royal family of Qingxiao Kingdom the most. Xia Jiqing and the others are all her friends. But just to put Nangong Aochen into the limelight, they wanted to wipe them out. Instead, she obliterated Nangong Aochen. She has never been soft-hearted towards her enemies. As early as when she fed poison to Nangong Aochen, she had already made up her mind that Nangong Aochen must die. Not only that, members of the royal family must also be punished. Since he wanted them to be a stepping stone for Nangong Aochen, she will make the entire royal family pay for it. Chu Jiao and others were very helpless. Nangong Oi invited them into the palace to detoxify Nangong Aochen, but they had never seen such a rare poison. Even though they have tried every possible way, it still didn't work. The toxin is simply beyond their understanding. Almost at the first moment of contact with this poison, Chu Jiao and others had already determined that the person who poisoned Nangong Aochen was a master of using poisons. Otherwise, this poison would not be so difficult to solve. However, according to Nangong Oi, this poison was actually made by Bailey Hongzhuang. When they heard the news, they couldn't believe it. There is a big difference between an alchemist and a poisoner. Most of the alchemists following alchemy formulas to make pills, but a poison master studies medicine. It seems similar, but it is completely different. Difficult. Chu Jiao. They have understood Bailey Hongzhuang's talent in alchemy to a certain extent, but they had no idea that Bailey Hongzhuang had such a talent in the poison arts. The first time they heard about it, they couldn't believe it. It is incredible that someone as young as Bailey Hongzhuang can achieve such results in cultivation, alchemy and inscriptions. Poison techniques are equally complex, and the effort required to delve into this field is certainly not small. How could Bailey Hongzhuang have so much energy to study these things? If this is the case, Bailey Hongzhuang is really a genius. However, the confident tone of Nangong Ouyang left no room for doubt. With his identity, if he said so, there must be enough solid evidence. With the existence of Bewitching, Nangong Oui could not use his power to pressure Bailey Hongzhuang to save Nangong Ouchen. Because of what happened earlier, Bailey Hongzhuang probably hated him to the extreme. So if he went to ask for an antidote, it would absolutely be futile. Nangong Oui knew that the relationship between Chu Jio and Huan Chuyu was very good. As long as Chu Jio and the three helped, Nangong Ouchen might still have a chance. As for this, Chu Jio and the other two could be said to be exceptionally helpless. Although they did not watch the final match, news travels fast, and they also learned about the finals outcome. To put it simply, this is the royal family using their power to oppress people. Even if Bailey Hongzhuang gave Nangong Ouchen poison, it was probably because she felt she couldn't survive, so she poisoned him. If it were them, no matter how magnanimous they might be, they would not be able to give out the antidote. After all, it was the royal family who wanted to take their lives. They were just forced to counterattack. In my opinion, it is absolutely impossible for Bailey Hongzhuang to give up with the antidote. Chen Yi's tone was full of certainty. Although he only met Bai Li Hongzhuang at the alchemy competition, he knows that Bai Li Hongzhuang is a person with strong opinions and is not easily swayed. Just from Bailey Hongzhuang's treatment of Wei Hanyin, one could see that she has never been lenient towards her enemies. Now it is undoubtedly very difficult for them to ask Bailey Hongzhuang for the elixir. However, dealing with the emperor's command is difficult. They have stayed in Qingxiao Kingdom for many years, and the royal family has taken good care of them. If possible, they would like to avoid this matter. It's true that the royal family has gone too far in this matter. Moreover, Bailey Hongzhuang, being the wife of Bewitching, is not afraid of the royal family, so it is really difficult. Lin Hao's eyes reflected a little helplessness, as this kind of thing is really difficult for them to do. We're just going to give it a try. If Bailey Hongzhuang doesn't want to, there's nothing we can do. Chu Jio's face was also held a contemplative expression. They didn't guarantee that they would be successful. They were just going to inquire, because of the years of the royal family's support over the years. If Bailey Hongzhuang was not willing, they would not force her. I just hope Elder Huan doesn't think that we're in league with the royal family, sigh. Lin Hao sighed. They have known Huan Chuyu for many years, and this time Huan Chuyu's life was almost lost here. From the attitude of Huan Chuyu on that day, it seems that Kanglin Academy is now determined to break away from the other two academies. If it were not for Bailey Hongzhuang's injuries that need rest, the team from Kanglin Academy would have already left Qingxiao country. After this time, they don't know when they will see Huan Chuyu again. They really don't want their friendship of many years to be affected by the royal family's affairs. Inscriptionist Guild Bailey Hongzhuang was resting in the house. The fracture of her rib is clearly not something that can be healed in a short period of time. She fears she will have to rest for a few more days before leaving the Qingxiao Kingdom. Bailey girl, how are your injuries? Just when Bailey Hongzhuang was bored, Bewitching opened the door, and a familiar voice rang outside the room. Turning her gaze slightly, Bailey Hongzhuang saw Bai Jingtian, Ji Yunma and Qin Qingwu walk in. We just heard about your injuries, so we came to see you. How is your health? Ji Yunma asked with concern. Although they didn't know each other for a long time, they were real lifelong friends. Last time, Bailey Hongzhuang told them many ways to configure inscription liquid, which made their eyes shine. The inscription technique, which had not made progress for many years, had already made progress after Bailey Hongzhuang's hints. Therefore, they not only appreciated Bailey Hongzhuang, but also had a fondness for her like elders for their grandchild. They thought that there would be no problems in the finals of the Academy Exchange competition, but didn't expect such a big thing to happen. If Bewitching hadn't just arrived, Bailey Hongzhuang's life might have been lost in the royal arena. When they first learned the news, the three old guys were all very angry. Nowadays, the royal family is becoming more and more useless, even attacking students from the academy. If they were there at the time, they would definitely stand up and stop it. But after finding out that Bailey Hongzhuang was fine, they focused their attention on Bewitching. All along, they thought that Bailey Hongzhuang was excellent, and that ordinary men were not good enough for her. Bai Jingtian was still thinking of introducing her to some young heroes. They didn't expect to not need to worry about this matter at all. To their surprise, the young master of the Tiangang sect was actually Bailey Hongzhuang's husband. They were truly shocked, and they exclaimed that they didn't expect it. Seeing Bai Jingtian and his companions, Bailey Hongzhuang's lips curved into a joyful smile. Although they have only known each other for a short time, Bai Jingtian and the other two people gave her the same feeling as those old guys from her previous life, as if they were her grandfathers. No problem, it will be back to normal in a few days. Bailey Hongzhuang said with a smile. The royal family went too far this time. I almost died of anger when I heard the news. Bai Jingtian couldn't hide his anger. Bailey Hongzhuang is a rare good seedling. The royal family actually wanted to kill her. People with different interests cannot work together. As soon as the royal family of Qingxiao Kingdom was mentioned, a hint of coldness appeared in Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes. Don't talk about them, save yourself the pain. Yes. Ji Yinmo nodded. The matter is over, let's not bring it up again. Bailey girl, after taking your advice last time, I went back and experimented, and it was indeed successful. Qin Qingwu's face was beaming with joy. The method of configuring the inscription liquid that Bailey Hongzhuang mentioned had a significant difference from theirs. After some experiments, they found that the method mentioned by Bailey Hongzhuang was more appropriate, and it gave them a lot of help. That's good. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled lightly. Bailey girl, don't you plan to join the Inscription Masters Guild? Bai Jingtian asked. We three old guys are not young anymore. If you can join, we will nominate you for guild leader in Qingxiao Kingdom, and let you manage it in the future. Gift, inscription pen. Hearing Bai Jingtian's words, Di Baichen at the side also had a look of surprise in his eyes. Previously, he had already heard from Xia Jiqing about Bailey Hongzhuang's talent as an inscription master. However, from the attitude of Bai Jingtian and the two others, it can be seen that they admire Bailey Hongzhuang to an extraordinary degree. Compared to the Alchemist Guild, the Inscriber Guild has fewer members, but their benefits are even greater than the Alchemist Guilds. After all, rare things are precious, and the number of inscribers is really too small. Although Bailey Hongzhuang is quite accomplished in the inscription art, with her current age and qualifications, she is unable to become the president of the inscription division. This status means that Bailey Hongzhuang could draw a lot of resources from the Inscription Masters Guild, which would be of great benefit to Bailey Hongzhuang. This is what many inscription masters want. Bai Jingtian so easily gave up the identity of the president of the Inscription Masters Guild to Bailey Hongzhuang? It seems that the Bai Jingtian and the two others not only appreciate Bailey Hongzhuang, but they also have a kind of paternal love for Bailey Hongzhuang. I am willing to join the Inscription Masters Guild, but given the current situation with the Qingxiao Kingdom's royal family, I won't be staying here. Bailey Hongzhuang showed a trace of helplessness in her eyes. The biggest gain from this trip to Qingxiao Kingdom was getting to know the Bai Jingtian and the other two seniors. If possible, she also hopes to have the opportunity to communicate further with Bai Jingtian and the other two in the future. But she has a strong disgust for Qingxiao Kingdom, and she will definitely not stay here. Hearing this, Bai Jingtian also sighed. He understood that Bailey Hongzhuang was right. It can be said that Bailey Hongzhuang has completely fallen out with Qingxiao Kingdom's royal family. If she still stays in Qingxiao Kingdom, the royal family would likely regard her as a thorn in their side, leading to a lot of trouble in the future. The royal family's actions are becoming more and more unbearable. Bailey girl, if you have a chance in the future, come and see us three old men. Bai Jingtian spoke out. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded repeatedly. I definitely will. In my opinion, you don't need to participate in the assessment of Inscription Master. I'll draft your Inscription Master identity tomorrow and bring you your Calligraphy Master robe. It will be much more convenient to buy the materials needed for inscription at the Inscription Masters Guild in the future. If you go to other inscription masters' guilds for assessment, it will inevitably be troublesome. Seeing Bai Jingtian thinking of her so much, Bailey Hongzhuang felt a little flattered. Thank you, Elder Bai. Bai Jingtian smiled and waved his hand. Why are we talking about this between us? Ji Yunma and Qin Qinggu placed a slender brocade box in front of Bailey Hongzhuang, indicating that Bailey Hongzhuang should open it. Bailey girl, you came to Qingxiao Kingdom and helped us three old guys a lot. We old guys don't have much to give you, so this inscription pen is a gift. Upon hearing this, Bailey Hongzhuang hesitated for a moment, then immediately waved her hands and said, This won't do, I can't accept it. Bailey girl, we three are all your elders, what's wrong with giving you a small gift? Quickly take it. Bailey Hongzhuang opened the brocade box and saw a black and shiny inscription pen in the box. With a slight movement of her mental energy, Bailey Hongzhuang could feel how good the performance of this inscription pen was. With such an inscription pen in hand, the success rate of her drawing inscriptions would also increase significantly. It's just that this inscription pen is too precious. Ask Bailey Hongzhuang. The inscription pen is very important to the inscription master, just like the alchemy furnace is important to the alchemist. A good inscription pen is very rare, and the inscription pen given to her by the three of them is undoubtedly very precious, and is a rare and excellent product. For the inscription master, an inscription pen is very important, please keep it well. Ji Yunma said with a smile. Aye. Bailey Hongzhuang opened her mouth. Everyone knew how valuable this inscription pen was. She really couldn't just accept it like this. Seeing that Bailey Hongzhuang was about to say something, Qin Qinggu waved his hand to stop Bailey Hongzhuang's words. Bailey girl, don't say that you refuse. The three of us regard you as our granddaughter, and it is normal for grandfathers to give something to their granddaughter. If you refuse, it means that you don't want to treat us as grandfathers. Upon hearing this, Bailey Hongzhuang was deeply moved. Bai Jingtian and the others were really too good to her. Thank you very much. Bailey Hongzhuang's face bloomed with a smile. If she still refused at this time, it would hurt the hearts of the three seniors. After seeing this scene, Bewitching, who was standing nearby, also had a hint of smile in his eyes. While Bailey Hongzhuang and others were conversing, Chu Jiu and the others also came to the inn. As Chu Jiu and the two others explained their intention, the expression on Huan Chuyo's face also changed somewhat. Since experiencing the events in the finals, he has come to understand many things. All the fame is meaningless, and he has also made a firm decision that he will never come to Qingxiao country again. You mean that Nangong Aochen is seriously ill because Bailey Hongzhuang was poisoned? Do you mean to say that Nangong Aochen's serious illness is due to Bailey Hongzhuang poisoning him? Huan Chi was somewhat skeptical. If Bailey Hongzhuang really did poison him, Nangong Aochen should have already reported this, but he has not received any news of it yet. Perhaps this is another case of the royal family framing someone. Chu Jiu nodded slightly. However, this was said by Nangong Aochen when he was awake, so it shouldn't be wrong. I don't know. Huan Chu Jiu shook his head with a slight look of detachment on his face. He has no connection with the royal family anymore, and just hearing the word royal makes him uncomfortable. Elder Huan, why don't you ask Bailey Hongzhuang? Chu Jiu wondered. Bailey Hongzhuang is still recovering from her injuries. If you are here just to inquire about her condition, or to catch up, I welcome you. But if you are here to act as an ambassador for the royal family, then you can leave now. Huan Chu's face was slightly cold. As the vice principal, the thing he could not accept the most was someone threatening the lives of the students. The actions of the royal family of Qingxiao have already touched his bottom line, and whether Nangong Aochen is dead or alive has nothing to do with him. Looking at Huan Chuyo's resolute attitude, the three of them were very helpless. This was not unexpected. Elder Huan, our friendship with you has been for so many years. Chen Yu said slowly. We are definitely on your side in this matter, but we have been in Qingxiao Kingdom for so many years, and the emperor asked us to come. We are helpless. We just want to ask Bailey Hongzhuang a few questions. If she disagrees, we will not force it. What do you think? Upon hearing this, Huan Chuyu looked Chu Jiu and the others. and there was still a bit of unhappiness in his eyes. Extraordinary, Bailey Hongzhuang. I'll let you meet Bailey Hongzhuang. As for the rest, I'll leave it up to Bailey Hongzhuang to decide. Huan Chu said slowly. He has known Chu Jio and the other two people for many years, and he also has a certain understanding of their personalities. He believes that they came only out of helplessness. After all, this matter is a problem between Kanglin Academy and Qingxiao Kingdom's royal family, and he is unwilling to hurt their relationship of many years because of it. After saying farewell to Qingxiao Kingdom this time, he doesn't know when he and these old friends will be able to meet again. Hearing Huan Chu's words, Chu Jio and the others also breathed a sigh of relief. Fortunately, Elder Huan was still reasonable, and things weren't as bad as they thought. Okay. Chu Jio nodded. No matter what decision Bailey Hongzhuang makes, we will respect it. Huan Chu's complexion looked a little better. As the vice principal of the academy, he felt that he owed Bailey Hongzhuang a lot because of the exchange competition. He was unwilling to let Bailey Hongzhuang suffer any more harm. This time Bailey Hongzhuang was completely in charge. He didn't want Bailey Hongzhuang to make any decisions she didn't want because of his friendship with Chu Jio and the others. Huan Chuyu led Chu Jio and the others into Bailey Hongzhuang's house. And when Bai Jingtian and the others saw that Chu Jio and the others had also come, a look of surprise appeared in their eyes. I didn't expect you to come to see the Hongzhuang girl, Ji Yunma said with a smile. It was only a short time since Bailey Hongzhuang came to Qingxiao Kingdom, but she has conquered many people with her strength. Chu Jio and the other two were equally surprised, but after hearing Ji Yunma's question, their expressions changed slightly. Bailey girl, how is your injury now? Chu Jio took out a white porcelain bottle and handed it to Bailey Hongzhuang. This elixir is very helpful for healing. Thank you, Master Chu. My injury is no longer a hindrance, Bailey Hongzhuang said hastily. She was equally surprised by the appearance of Chu Jio and the other two. The reason why Bai Jingtian and the other two came was because of their very good relationship between her and Bai Jingtian. As for Chu Jio and the other two, although they had some interaction during the alchemy competition, they were not very familiar. It seems that their main purpose for coming here was to visit the vice principal. After all, the vice principal has known them for many years and is good friends with them. They will leave Qingxiao Kingdom in a few days, and it will not be so easy to meet each other in the future. After Xia Jiqing and the others saw so many masters visiting Bailey Hongzhuang, envy and emotion appeared in their eyes. Hongzhuang is really amazing to have so many masters come to see her. If other people saw it, they would probably be surprised beyond belief. Xia Jiqing's face was full of smiles. Hongzhuang was truly her idol, and everything about her was so extraordinary. A hint of envy appeared in Lu Qinyue's eyes. Bailey Hongzhuang was now a hero of Kanglin Academy, and almost everyone was extremely fond of her. Even masters who are rarely seen normally are eager to visit Bailey Hongzhuang. Such an honor is really not something ordinary people can have. Hongzhuang is not an ordinary person. The students of Lingyin Academy were stunned when several masters rushed to accept Hongzhuang as their apprentice. Zhang Yinfeng said with a smile. As a woman herself, she didn't feel the slightest bit of jealousy towards Bailey Hongzhuang. Perhaps it is precisely because she knows that she will never be able to compare with Hongzhuang, so she has no jealousy. Angry by Jingtian after some small talk, Chu Jio and the other two hesitated to speak. They did not expect Bai Jingtian and his two companions to be here. They understand the personalities of Bai Jingtian and others very well, and if they were to explain their intentions, it would probably provoke some contempt. Bailey Hongzhuang also noticed that Chu Jio and his companions were hesitant to speak. It seems that they did not come just to visit, but have something to say. Elder Huan, is there something you need? Bailey Hongzhuang spoke slowly. Her pitch-black phoenix eyes shone with the wise light of contemplation. She already had some guesses in her mind, but she wasn't sure if her assumptions were correct. Now Nangong Aochen's situation has become increasingly serious. She is confident in the poison she has administered, and that absolutely no one else can solve it except for her. She believes that Nangong Oi must be impatient by now. Listening to Bailey Hongzhuang's words, Chu Jio and the other two exchanged a glance. Since they came for a purpose in mind, there was no point in hesitating any longer. Bailey girl, we heard that you gave a pill to His Highness the Crown Prince during the final? Chunyu asked slowly. As Chunyu finished speaking, the previously lively and joyous atmosphere in the room changed. All eyes turned to Chunyu, as people didn't understand the meaning behind his words. Chunyu, what do you mean by asking that? Bai Jingtian frowned. He had also heard the news that Nangong Aochen was seriously ill, but he didn't know that it had something to do with Bailey Hongzhuang. However, whether Bailey Hongzhuang was involved or not, there is no evidence. Could it be that Chunyu came to demand punishment? Elder Bai, I don't mean anything by it. I just want to ask if Bailey Hongzhuang has an antidote. As soon as these words were spoken, Xia Jiqing and others looked at Bailey Hongzhuang in surprise. Previously, they were overjoyed to hear about Nangong Aochen's sudden illness, thinking that it was the natural consequence of his wrongdoings and troubles that he had gotten himself into. They never imagined that it was all orchestrated by Bailey Hongzhuang. Bailey Hongzhuang furrowed her eyebrows slightly. She understood that this news couldn't be hidden forever, and Nangong Aochen would definitely speak out about it. However, she never thought that it would be Chu Jio and the others who came to ask her for the antidote. Di Baichen's face had already taken on a hint of coldness. He was determined to take the life of Nangong Aochen, but because Bailey Hongzhuang had already poisoned him, he didn't immediately take action. Now that the royal family dared to question Bailey Hongzhuang, this was something he could not forgive. Senior Chen, I'm wondering if your brain has been squeezed by a door? Ji Yinma's eyes flashed with confusion. From beginning to end, this whole thing was started by the royal family. Are you now lobbying for the royal family? If you came for the royal family, I suggest you don't say anything else and just leave. Qin Qingwu's eyes also showed a hint of disgust. They were only concerned with studying inscription art, and had no fondness for members of the royal family. They regarded Bailey Girl as a granddaughter, and the royal family's actions undoubtedly made them very unhappy. At this time, Chunyu and others even came to ask Bailey Girl for an antidote. Isn't that asking for trouble? Looking at the attitudes of Bai Jingtian and others, the faces of Chunyu and his two companions also looked a bit unpleasant. If possible, they really didn't want to do such things for the royal family. Antidote, I don't have it, Elder Bai, Elder Ji, Elder Qin. This matter is not what you think it is, Chunyu explained helplessly. We only came to inquire because of the emperor's orders, and we have no other intentions. As Chunyu's words fell, the slightly tense atmosphere also eased a bit. At least Chunyu and the other two were not here to make trouble. Bailey Girl, His Highness the Crown Prince has already fallen into chaos. I wonder if you can provide an antidote? Asked Chu Jio. Just in the past few days, Nangong Aochen has suffered quite a bit. If the intention was to take revenge on Nangong Aochen, then the goal has been achieved. Bailey Hongzhuang, you decide this matter for yourself, don't mind others. Huan Chuyu said slowly, as he didn't want Bailey Hongzhuang to do something she didn't want to do because of him. If it weren't for the long-standing relationship between him, Chunyu, and the others, he would have directly refused. What does Nangong Aochen have anything to do with them? Now that Nangong Aochen is seriously ill, he has come to seek their help. Prior to this, the royal family wanted to use the deaths of all of them as a stepping stone for Nangong Aochen. Bailey Hongzhuang gave Huan Chuyu a slightly surprised look. She thought that Huan Chuyu brought the three master alchemists in because Huan Chuyu had the same idea as them. But now it seems that this is not the case. Vaguely, she already understood that Huan Chuyu probably wasn't happy either. Indeed, I was the one who administered the poison, said Bailey Hongzhuang slowly. Upon hearing this, everyone's expression changed. Bailey Hongzhuang unexpectedly straightforwardly admitted it. The beautiful and refined face was full of calmness and indifference. From the beginning to the end, Bailey Hongzhuang never tried to hide it. Since Nangong Aochen wanted her dead, she naturally couldn't let Nangong Aochen live happily either. However, I don't have an antidote. Since she started making this poison, she had no plans to provide an antidote for anyone. If she didn't truly hope for the other party's death, she wouldn't have chosen to use this poison. From the moment she fed Nangong Ouchin this pill, it was already destined that he was doomed. What does this mean? Lin Hao was a little surprised, not knowing whether Bailey Hongzhuang had no antidote or was unwilling to give it out. Since I have decided to poison him and want him dead, what's the point of preparing an antidote? Bailey Hongzhuang's rhetorical question left Chu Jio and the others in silence. Upon careful consideration, Bailey Hongzhuang's words did make some sense. The function of poison is to kill, and Bailey Hongzhuang was obviously determined to kill Nangong Ouchin. So why bother to make an antidote? Now that you are safe and sound, it is better to turn your hostility into friendship and hand over the antidote, and you will have one less enemy. Chu Jio said earnestly. This scene was something she really didn't want to see. What Elder Chu said is wrong. Bailey Hongzhuang shook her head slightly, but there was a wicked smile on her lips. Previously, it wasn't that the royal family didn't want to kill us. It was just that they didn't have the ability, so we've survived until now. This has nothing to do with the royal family. If it weren't for the appearance of Bewitching, we would have already disappeared from this world. As for whether I kill Nangong Ouchin or not, this is also my decision. If the royal family has the ability, Nangong Ouchin will naturally not die. But if they don't have the ability, what does that have to do with me? Bailey Hongzhuang's expression was indifferent. Her eyes were absolutely determined. She had no mercy towards a guy like Nangong Ouchin. Bailey girl, well said. Even if she handed over the antidote, the royal family would not be grateful to her for it. On the contrary, because what she had done had left an indelible stain on the royal family. She and the royal family of Qingxiao Kingdom were destined to be at odds. If that's the case, why would she cultivate an enemy and make herself unhappy hearing Bailey Hongzhuang's words? Everyone's expressions changed a little, and they felt that Bailey Hongzhuang's words were very reasonable. Even Chu Jio and the others, who had already planned their speech, were speechless after hearing Bailey Hongzhuang's words, because Bailey Hongzhuang had already seen through all of this. Bewitching's eyes were full of admiration. His wife's intelligence is indeed not something ordinary people can possess. She didn't have the slightest bit of feminine weakness, which has reduced a lot of trouble. Xia Jiqing and the others were also full of admiration. They didn't expect Hongzhuang to be so domineering at this time, making it impossible for people to refute. Clap clap. Bai Jingtian immediately applauded. He was also amazed by Bailey Hongzhuang's remarks. Bailey girl, well said. Bailey Hongzhuang's character is quite similar to his own. If you don't like it, you just don't like it, don't care about the rest. As an inscription master, even the imperial power cannot constrain him. If necessary, he could simply switch to another dynasty to reside. With the vastness of the world, surely there must be a place for him to go. Ji Yunma and Qin Qinggu also showed expressions of approval on their faces. If they were girls of the same age, facing such imperial power, they probably wouldn't have the courage to make such a decision. But Bailey Hongzhuang's resoluteness really made their eyes shine. After all, the Shengxian continent is a world where everyone relies on their own abilities. Chu Jio and the other two looked at each other. They also did not expect Bailey Hongzhuang to be so decisive. At such a moment, it seems that nothing they say will be of any use. Elder Chen, since Bailey Hongzhuang has already made a decision, don't force it. Huan Chu said slowly. Bailey Hongzhuang's decision did not exceed his expectations, and it was also the most correct decision. Thinking of this, Huan Chu's eyes could not help but fall on Lu Qingyue. Lu Qingyue's temperament is really too gentle, lacking the resoluteness that Bailey Hongzhuang had. At least, if this kind of thing were to fall on Lu Qingyue's shoulders, he was afraid Lu Qingyue would not know how to decide. Chu Jio's group nodded slightly. They had done what they were supposed to do, and the outcome of this incident could only be attributed to the royal family's erroneous decision. In that case, we will take our leave first. Chu Jio said slowly. Because of this incident, there was a bit of embarrassment between them and Huan Chuyu and the others. It might be much better to come back with a different identity next time. However, just when Chu Jio and the others were about to leave, Bailey Hongzhuang said slowly, "Three masters, you'd better not get too close to Nangong Ouchin. After the words fell, Bailey Hongzhuang withdrew her gaze, as she has already said everything she needed to say. It's just that when Chu Jio and the others heard Bailey Hongzhuang's words, there was a deep look of horror in their eyes. What does this mean? Don't get too close to Nangong Aochan. Is there something unusual with Nangong Aochan's illness? As soon as they thought of this, the three people's faces changed suddenly. It seems that they had oversimplified the situation. The expressions of Huan Chuyu and the others also changed slightly. Bailey Hongzhuang's words had already revealed a lot of information. Regret, Jian Qingqiu compared to the shock on everyone's faces. Bailey Hongzhuang looked very indifferent. She has never been merciful to her enemies. At the beginning, Nangong Oui wanted the entire Kanglin Academy team buried with her, because she ruined Nangong Aochan's plan to become famous. She has always been good at treating others in the same way as they wanted to treat her. Since Nangong Oui decided to do this, she would naturally not be polite. However, in the end she was on the victor's side. Looking at the indifferent Bailey Hongzhuang, Di Beichen also had admiration and appreciation in his eyes. His wife has always been impeccable in everything she does. Even he can't help being frightened by this kind of poison. While Xia Jiqing and the others arrived happily, they could not help but feel sorry for Nangong Aochan and others. It is not good to offend anyone, but they just had to offend Hongzhuang. The consequences of this can only be said to be their own fault. Bai Jingtian and the others were very calm about this. They have lived long lives. What kind of things have they never seen? This kind of outcome is very normal for those full of hatred and malice. There is no cruelty or kindness. One's determination has already determined everything. After Chu Jio and the other two left the inn, the horror in their hearts still did not disappear. Because this is really amazing. With Bailey Hongzhuang's age and skill, to achieve this level is already sufficient to prove that Bailey Hongzhuang is extraordinary. This time, the royal family's decision was truly a big mistake. In the current situation, there is nothing we can do. Lin Hao said slowly. They had tried their best. Chu Jio nodded slightly and said, "Let's just tell the emperor this news. As for the rest, it's beyond our control." They only went to inquire out of respect for the care the royal family has shown them over the years. By doing this, they have already done all that they can. After all, even the royal family can't force them. The royal family really made a wrong decision this time. And the relationship between the three major academies has also been affected. Chu Jio sighed quietly and said, "Perhaps this was all destined to happen. If the academy exchange hadn't been suddenly rescheduled, none of this would have occurred." The outcome of the academy exchange meeting was unresolved, and both Jian Qingqiu and Song Hongxi felt very conflicted about it. This result was unexpected by all of them. The original purpose of hosting the academy exchange conference was just to suppress Kanglin Academy. Now that Kanglin Academy has withdrawn directly, they don't know what to do. After seeing the strong attitude of the royal family, Jian Qingqiu had a vague sense of foreboding. Now everyone thinks that Lingyin Academy is the academy of the royal family. In the future, the weight of the royal family in Lingyin Academy will become more and more important, and he, the principal, will also be constrained by the royal family. Song Hongxi's attitude has also changed somewhat. It is undoubtedly good that Lingyin Academy has the strength it has today. However, if it loses its autonomy as an academy, it is not a good thing. He had always felt that Jian Qingqiu's actions were beneficial and harmless, and could increase the influence of the academy and become more famous. But now it seems that the situation does not seem to be as optimistic as they thought. He needed to think about it carefully. Jian Qingqiu can no longer escape, but he still has a chance to escape. Jian Qingqiu also noticed Song Hongxi's thoughts, and his face became extremely ugly. But in the current situation, he couldn't say anything more. Powerful, Bailey Hongzhuang. After Nangong Oui learned about the result from Chu Jio and other two, his expression became a bit ugly. Although he anticipated this outcome, he still felt that there was a glimmer of hope. After all, the power of the royal family should not be underestimated. He did not expect Bailey Hongzhuang to be so decisive. As a result, he was left with no options. However, Chu Jio's final reminder stunned him. Stay away from Nangong Aochin? Could this mean that the poison Nangong Aochin was afflicted with was contagious? When Nangong Oui heard the news, he found it incredible. He had never heard of the existence of this kind of poison, and he didn't believe that a poison master could create such a poison. Otherwise, who would dare to offend the poison master? Once someone was poisoned, the consequence would be the extermination of the entire family. As for their attitude towards Nangong Oui, Chu Jio and the other two did not say anything more. They had said what they needed to say, and it was Nangong Oui's choice whether to believe it or not. In fact, Chu Jio and the others were also skeptical about this matter. A poison with this effect was really unheard of, but Bailey Hongzhuang's attitude was very serious, without a hint of deception. If this matter was said by someone else, they definitely would not believe it. But when these words were said by Bailey Hongzhuang, it quietly gained a little more credibility. Not for any other reason than it was Bailey Hongzhuang. So far, they had seen too many unbelievable things from Bailey Hongzhuang. Her abilities exceeded their imagination. What's more, Bailey Hongzhuang didn't need to deceive them. Bailey Hongzhuang's attitude was resolute. She wanted Nangong Aochin to die. If it was only for this reason, Bailey Hongzhuang could have used a poison that killed instantly instead of making Nangong Aochin struggle for so long. There are two possibilities for doing this. One is that Bailey Hongzhuang wants Nangong Aochin to be tortured to death, and the other is the possibility that Bailey Hongzhuang said. Once Nangong Aochin was poisoned, other people would continue to come into contact with him. As a result, the possibility of other people being infected would also greatly increase. Regardless of the reason, they all shuddered. Obviously, offending an enemy like Bailey Hongzhuang was a very unwise move. Bai Jingtian and the others did not stay at the inn for long, and after telling Bailey Hongzhuang to rest well, they left. Once they knew that Bailey Hongzhuang's injuries were not serious, they felt relieved. Xia Jiqing and the others also left, leaving only Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen in the room. Di Beichen tucked in the covers for Bailey Hongzhuang, his fair and handsome face showing concern. With so many people coming to see you, are you tired? Bailey Hongzhuang smiled lightly and shook her head. My injuries have already improved a lot. Don't treat me like an especially fragile patient. These things don't affect me much. As your husband, I just can't help worrying about you. Di Beichen smiled. His wife is truly strong. Hearing this, Bailey Hongzhuang felt a sweetness in her heart. It was rare for her to have such time to spend with Di Beichen, and it made her feel very happy. Have all the matters been resolved during your return to the sect? Did you also obtain the 9th grade purple Lingji? The jet-black phoenix-like eyes sparkled with concern. Bailey Hongzhuang was very concerned about the situation of Di Beichen's cursed body. Nervous, Di Beichen nodded slightly and said, That's right, I obtained the 9th grade purple Lingji. Seeing Di Beichen's indifferent and simple expression, Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes flashed with a hint of emotion. She had thought that it would not be an easy task to resolve the sect's affairs and obtain the 9th grade purple Lingji. But Di Beichen was able to handle it so well. From the indifferent look on Di Beichen's face, it seemed as though he was only dealing with something very simple. However, she knew that this matter was definitely not so easily resolved. Otherwise, there would have been no need for Di Beichen to go there in person. She had a vague feeling that as long as Di Beichen took action, all problems would easily solved. As long as he is there, everything can be solved. Returning this time must have been very tiring. With her delicate and exquisite face showing concern and distress, she knew that everyone was impressed by Di Beichen's status, but they didn't know that it was also a kind of pressure. It was precisely because of his unusual identity that he had much more to bear than others. Nowadays Di Beichen was often by her side, so it might be that he was under immense pressure. Feeling Bailey Hongzhuang's distress, Di Beichen's heart softened, and his right hand slowly grasped Bailey Hongzhuang's soft and boneless little hand. His handsome eyes were full of tenderness. I'm not tired. As long as I see you, I won't be tired. Hearing Di Beichen's sweet words, Bailey Hongzhuang noticed the seriousness deep in Di Beichen's starry eyes, and the smile on his lips were also filled with happiness. But wife, what is the relationship between you and Mo Yunjue? Deep as the sea, his handsome eyes quietly showed a hint of tension. He didn't want to ask, but Mo Yunjua's attitude that day really made him feel threatened. Bailey Hongzhuang silently sized up Di Beichen, a hint of amusement rising in her heart. Over the past few days, Di Beichen had not asked her about Mo Yunjua. It seems that he couldn't bear it anymore. Feeling Bailey Hongzhuang's scrutinizing gaze, Di Beichen became even more nervous, afraid that the question he asked would make Bailey Hongzhuang feel that he didn't trust her. Although he had already sent He Mu to check information about Mo Yunjua, what he was more interested in knowing was his wife's attitude. Di Beichen felt nervous, which was completely non-existent in the past. Only when facing Bailey Hongzhuang did he have such emotions, because Bailey Hongzhuang's intentions were too important to him. Because he cares too much, he would feel nervous. If he had experienced this emotion before, he would have found it laughable. However, now he is deeply immersed in this emotion and unable to extricate himself from it. Seeing Di Beichen's nervous appearance, a smile slowly appeared in Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes. Mo Yunjua and I are just friends, nothing more. Bailey Hongzhuang spoke calmly. She had indeed always only regarded Mo Yunjua as a friend, without any romantic feelings. She was very clear that from the moment Di Beichen entered her heart, he was the one she would spend her life with. And she recognized Di Beichen's kindness towards her. She has never been a greedy person, nor someone who changes her mind frequently. As long as there is someone like Di Beichen who treats her sincerely, that is already enough. As Bailey Hongzhuang's voice fell, Di Beichen couldn't help but breathe a sigh of relief. Especially with Bailey Hongzhuang's calm appearance, he understood that from start to finish, she had no other thoughts. Wife, are you angry? In the past, when I was in the Luoyan mountain range, I once had a chance encounter with Mo Yunjua. Later, when I came to the Qingxiao kingdom, I happened to meet Mo Yunjua again. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled modestly and looked at Di Beichen. Despite Di Beichen's excellence, he was still worried about a romantic rival. Sensing Bailey Hongzhuang's playful gaze, Di Beichen's eyes also changed a bit. If it wasn't Bailey Hongzhuang, he wouldn't care if it was another person. All his emotions naturally changed after meeting Bailey Hongzhuang, and every frown and smile from Bailey Hongzhuang moved his heart. All along, he had always been aware of his own excellence, but in the presence of Bailey Hongzhuang, he did not have such arrogance. Because in Di Beichen's life, Bailey Hongzhuang is the person destined for him by fate. That's why all his emotions were tied to Bailey Hongzhuang. At that moment, when Di Beichen heard Bailey Hongzhuang speak so calmly and frankly, all the worries in his heart also disappeared. I just find Mo Yunjua's origins a bit strange. Facing the teasing eyes of Bailey Hongzhuang, Di Beichen pretended to be indifferent. As a mighty man, he was actually nervous about such a thing, which was indeed a bit damaging to his masculine image. However, in Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes, all of Di Beichen's actions appeared even more adorable. Bailey Hongzhuang pretended to be serious and nodded. Indeed, it's a bit strange. Sensing Bailey Hongzhuang's smile, Di Beichen narrowed his eyes. His wife's courage had grown. She dared to joke with him now. The next moment, Di Beichen's face slowly approached Bailey Hongzhuang. Bailey Hongzhuang stared blankly at Di Beichen's handsome face, approaching her little by little. She could even feel his warm breath at such a close distance. The smile in her eyes gradually disappeared, and a touch of blush quietly spread on her pretty face. It wasn't until Di Beichen's nose touched hers that Bailey Hongzhuang couldn't help but make a sound. What are you going to do? Di Beichen looked at Bailey Hongzhuang's nervous appearance and chuckled softly. His face turned slightly and lingered by Bailey Hongzhuang's ear. Wife, you are still so shy. As soon as these words were spoken, Bailey Hongzhuang froze for a moment and looked at Di Beichen in embarrassment. Di Beichen, this guy is really wicked. Di Beichen chuckled. His wife's shy nature has not changed at all. I just like seeing my wife's shyness. Di Beichen blinked. His already extraordinarily handsome face was now exuding a hint of charm and recklessness, filled with indescribable appeal. Bailey Hongzhuang bit her lip. She was indeed no match for Di Beichen in this respect, but she still had other ways. I'm going to rest, so you should leave, said Bailey Hongzhuang, lifting her chin. Upon seeing this, Di Beichen's eyes narrowed. Wife, are you angry? Bailey Hongzhuang raised her chin, her expression unchanged. I'm just tired. Di Beichen looked at Bailey Hongzhuang. Even when his wife was pretending to be angry, she was still so adorable. He knew that Bailey Hongzhuang was joking, because he had already seen the uncontrolled smile in her eyes. In the next instant, Di Beichen moved a little closer to Bailey Hongzhuang. Wife, why don't we rest together? Your husband is a little tired too. Di Beichen, hurry up and get out. Bailey Hongzhuang was helpless. This guy's shamelessness was as strong as a city wall. The fate of offending the master after Di Beichen left, Xiao He, Xiao Bai and Bai Shi all gathered in front of Bailey Hongzhuang. Their round, watery eyes all sparkled with slight smiles. Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes changed slightly. She made a mistake. Next time Di Beichen came, she should put these three little guys into the ring of chaos first. Her image as a brilliant master of martial arts was all destroyed by Di Beichen. Three beasts blinked their small eyes and had thick smiles on their faces. The atmosphere was indeed different when Di Beichen was present. Stop looking at me like that, or you won't have dinner tonight. Seeing that the three beasts continued to stare without showing any signs of restraint, Bailey Hongzhuang couldn't help but resort to her ultimate weapon. Fortunately, these three beasts still had a weakness. Sure enough, after Bailey Hongzhuang said this, the expressions of the three beasts also changed, and they immediately restrained their gazes, not daring to continue staring. For a foodie, this is the most unacceptable thing for them. Xiao He and Xiao Bai walked up to Bailey Hongzhuang, and their watery eyes twinkled with curiosity. Master, what kind of effect did the poison you gave to Nangong Aochen have? Based on the words previously spoken by the master, they only knew that the poison was very powerful, so they were even more curious about what kind of poison it was. This is a highly contagious poison with terrifying effects. Nangong Aochen has been sick for at least a month, and people who have been in frequent contact with him during this period are likely infected. Bailey Hongzhuang remained calm as she spoke, recalling how the old guys in her family were surprised when she formulated this poison. Normally, she had kept this poison hidden away for future use. She would never use it regularly, but this time, the actions of Qingxiao Kingdom's royal family really offended her. At that time in the competition arena, she was very clear in her heart that although she fought desperately, the possibility of success was still very small. It was precisely because of this that at that time she wanted the entire royal family of Qingxiao Kingdom to be buried with her. If she just wanted to kill Nangong Aochen, there were many kinds of poisons that could violently kill him. If she wanted to torture Nangong Aochen, there are also many methods available. However, she chose this method to make the entire royal family pay a huge price. Even though time has passed, the situation from before still remains vivid in her memory, and she has no intention of changing it. Upon hearing this, the three animals looked at each other and realized that their owner's methods were really extraordinary. Once you offend Master, your end is truly miserable. The royal family of Qingxiao Kingdom really asked for trouble, but this is also their own fault. Bailey Hongzhuang recovered from her injuries very quickly. With her own medical treatment, and Di Beichen persistently feeding her medicinal pills, her recovery speed was very satisfactory. My injuries no longer affect me, let's leave tomorrow, said Bailey Hongzhuang slowly. Due to her injuries, they had delayed their departure from Qingxiao Kingdom for a number of days. Now that Nangong Aochen's situation was growing more and more serious, they could also feel the royal family's gaze on them increasing. Although this has no effect everyone, it still feels very uncomfortable. Upon hearing this, Di Beichen frowned slightly, with some concern in his eyes. Don't try to be strong. First recover from your injuries before we leave. Bailey Hongzhuang shook her head slightly and said, I understand my body. It will be fine, and besides, I don't want to stay here anymore. Anxious, Nangong always seeing Bailey Hongzhuang's determination, Di Beichen thought for a moment. He understood that Bailey Hongzhuang was more worried about everyone. He had been together with Bailey Hongzhuang for so long that he also has a certain understanding of Bailey Hongzhuang's character. Making everyone bear it because of herself was obviously not what Bailey Hongzhuang wanted. Are your injuries really okay? The deep, dark eyes shimmered with a worried light. The road is bumpy. If you are affected by it, I will feel heartbroken. With Di Beichen's question, Bailey Hongzhuang's heart softened, and a sweet feeling spread through her heart. She understood how much Di Beichen cared about her. Don't worry, I'm sure nothing will happen, Bailey Hongzhuang said confidently. Although the journey was a bit bumpy, it wouldn't have too much of an impact. Her injuries had already recovered a lot, so leaving the Qingxiao kingdom was not a problem. Then, I'll go and tell everyone, said Di Beichen, stroking Bailey Hongzhuang's beautiful hair. His handsome features revealed a hint of warmth, and it was precisely because of Bailey Hongzhuang's personality that he couldn't help but feel distressed. After Di Beichen told everyone about this decision, they all walked into Bailey Hongzhuang's room. Hongzhuang, your injuries have not healed yet. Let's wait until your injuries are completely recovered before leaving. Xia Jiqing's face showed a worried expression. Although the recent attention from the royal family has made them somewhat helpless, with Di Beichen here, they did not have to worry about the royal family making any inappropriate moves. If it affects Bailey Hongzhuang's injuries, this is something they don't want to happen. Jiqing is right, you don't have to worry about us. It doesn't matter where we cultivate, Cui Haoyan said with a smile. Bailey Hongzhuang had already done a lot for them. They couldn't let her be affected by them again. Although Gong Shaoqing and the others did not speak, their eyes showed the same concern. Looking at the concerned expressions on everyone's faces, Bailey Hongzhuang felt warm in her heart and smiled, saying, My injuries are no longer serious, so you don't have to worry about me. In the end, everyone agreed with Bailey Hongzhuang's decision. In fact, Bailey Hongzhuang has become the leader of their team. No matter what choices she makes, they will support her. Di Beichen and the others started to prepare, and they will leave tomorrow. They also had to prepare their horses. Seeing the movements of Di Beichen and the others, the members of the royal family were also very upset. Once Bailey Hongzhuang left, Nangong Aochen would be completely helpless. Nangong Oi's face was extremely gloomy. Nangong Aochen was his most beloved son, and he wanted to forcibly detain Bailey Hongzhuang countless times. However, when he thought of Di Beichen's identity, he felt helplessness. With the status as young master of the Tiangang sect, he really couldn't afford to offend. Otherwise, once Di Beichen got angry, the whole royal family might be implicated. He can't afford this cost. It's just that as he watched the increasingly emaciated figure of Nangong Aochen, his mood plummeted. Who would have thought that as the emperor of a kingdom, he would be so helpless? Once Bailey Hongzhuang leaves, he will have no recourse. Thinking of this, Nangong Oi was about to collapse. He kept thinking of ways, if he couldn't seize this opportunity, then it would really be over. Between rivals in love, confrontation. Just as Di Beichen sent people to prepare to leave, Mo Yunjue also arrived at the inn. Upon seeing Mo Yunjue again, Di Beichen's expression was more indifferent compared to before. He is not a man lacking in self-confidence. On the contrary, he has absolute confidence in his own abilities. Earlier, it was just Mo Yunjue's sudden appearance that caught him off guard, which disoriented him a little. Bailey Hongzhuang had undoubtedly reassured him, so he had become more open and frank. Upon seeing Mo Yunjue, Xia Jiqing and the others smiled. Since coming to Qingxiao Kingdom, Mo Yunjue has helped them a lot, especially when he went against the royal family for them, but to be precise, for Bailey Hongzhuang. It is precisely because Mo Yunjue has feelings for Bailey Hongzhuang that everyone's expressions were somewhat strange. After all, they were all very clear about the relationship between Di Beichen and Bailey Hongzhuang. When love rivals meet, extremely jealousy appears. Regardless of whether it is Di Beichen or Mo Yunjue, they all think they are both good people. This situation can only be resolved on their own. Are you leaving tomorrow? Mo Yunjue, dressed in black, was restrained yet handsome, with a hint of casualness in his indifferent expression. He asked Di Beichen without a hint of embarrassment. Di Beichen's attitude was equally indifferent. Yes, we have stayed in Qingxiao Kingdom for a while, and it's time to leave. Has Hongzhuang's injuries recovered? Mo Yunjue asked. According to what he saw that day, it would take a while for Bailey Hongzhuang's injuries to recover. No, fully, but she has more than halfway recovered. Xia Jiqing and others looked at each other in concern. They were worried that Di Baichen and Mo Yunjue might start fighting over a trivial matter. After all, everyone knows the identities of these two rivals in love. However, the current situation is clearly very different from what they had imagined. Both men were behaving very casually, as if they were just ordinary friends, which made them feel strange. I'm going to see Hongzhuang, Mo Yunjue said. Hearing this, Di Baichen's expression remained unchanged. He opened the door and walked into the room with Mo Yunjue. He has never been a stingy person. Mo Yunjue's help to Hongzhuang during this period is truly real, and he doesn't want Hongzhuang to feel that he is so petty. After Di Baichen and Mo Yunjue entered the room together, Xia Jiqing and the others exploded. Oh my goodness! I didn't expect that the attitudes towards each other would be so peaceful when they met. I was worried that they would get into a fight if they disagreed. Xia Jiqing patted her chest, her eyes full of worry. Zhang Yinfeng nodded deeply in agreement. I already knew something was wrong when Di Baichen and Mo Yunjue stood in front of Hongzhuang together that day. It was this calmness that surprised me the most. Cui Haoyan and Gong Xiaoqing exchanged a glance. As men, they understood the real underlying situation. The calm between Di Baichen and Mo Yunjue was just a pretense. From the moment these two people met, a confrontational atmosphere had already taken hold. It's just that both of them can control their emotions and never show it. I don't think so. They have been comparing each other. Men care a lot about this kind of thing, said Bai Junyu slowly. As Bai Junyu's voice fell, Gong Xiaoqing and Cui Haoyan also nodded. Bai Junyu was absolutely right. Are you worried about me? When Bailey Hongzhuang saw Moyanju, her exquisite and unparalleled beauty blossomed with a gentle and charming smile. She knew everything that Mo Yunjue had done, and was very grateful to him. No matter what, Mo Yunjue's ability to do this for her was already a great act of kindness. If Mo Yunjue needed her help in the future, she would definitely not refuse. You've come, said Bailey Hongzhuang with a faint smile. Mo Yunjue nodded slightly, his gaze falling on Bailey Hongzhuang's no longer pale face. It seems that Bailey Hongzhuang had recovered quite well. Di Baichen sat down quietly on the side without speaking. This was the time for Bailey Hongzhuang to communicate with Mo Yunjue. Seeing that you're doing well puts my mind at ease. Mo Yunjue's eyebrows lifted slightly as a faint smile appeared on his face, but his deep black hole-like eyes shimmered with a complex and profound light. I heard that you will be leaving Qingxiao Kingdom tomorrow? Bailey Hongzhuang nodded her head gently. We have stayed in Qingxiao Kingdom for quite some time now. It's time to leave. It's better to leave earlier. Nangong Aochen's illness is getting worse, and he probably won't be able to hold on for much longer. If you continue to stay here, there is the potential for danger. If you leave, you will have a brighter future. Mo Yunjue said slowly. Hearing that, Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes were deep and mysterious, and her beautiful and fair face showed a hint of worry. Aren't you going to leave Qingxiao Kingdom? She didn't know what Mo Yunjue's identity was, but she could guess Mo Yunjue's identity would not be simple. Otherwise, Mo Yunjue wouldn't be able to stay safely in Qingxiao Kingdom after what happened back then. Perhaps that was why she didn't feel much guilt towards Mo Yunjue. Are you worried about me? Mo Yunjue raised an eyebrow slightly, and a hint of surprise appeared in his eyes. After hearing what Mo Yunjue said, Di Baichen behind him unconsciously clenched the right hand holding his teacup. This guy really doesn't know how to behave. Bailey Hongzhuang was also surprised, but still nodded and said, We are friends, so naturally I would care about you. Mo Yunjue had helped her so much, and she regards him as a respected friend. Now that Mo Yunjue is in danger, she would naturally be worried about him. Di Baichen quietly relaxed his hand holding the teacup, and the corners of his lips curled up in a happy arc. He just likes his Hongzhuang so much. The color of Mo Yunjue's eyes gradually changed, but his smile still showed a trace of lightheartedness. Don't worry, I will be fine. Bailey Hongzhuang deeply scrutinized Mo Yunjue with a glance. She could sense the confidence he had when he spoke those words. Thinking about it, what Mo Yunjue said was true. She really didn't need to worry. That's good. Thank you for your help. If you need my help in the future, just let me know. The dark as ink phoenix eyes shone with sincerity, and clear gratitude as she thanked him for his generous assistance. Without Mo Yunjue's help, the situation would have been even worse. Mo Yunjue stared at those pair of black, bright and clear eyes. His deep, boundless eyes flashed with a hint of emotional change. His beautiful, thin lips lifted slowly, exuding a hint of sexy wickedness. Mo Yunjue smiled lightly and said, "Okay." Bailey Hongzhuang smiled gently. Perhaps this friendship came about in a strange way, but it was real. "I wish you a smooth journey. See you in the future." Mo Yunjue stood up slowly. His handsome and stern face exuded a sense of ease and indifference, but his final sentence was affirmative. Reborn Bailey Hongzhuang got up to see her off, but Mo Yunjue declined politely. Bailey Hongzhuang's current injury should be well cultivated, and she should move as little as possible. However, when Mo Yunjue turned to leave and passed by Bewitching noticed Mo Yunjue's expression, and immediately walked out with Mo Yunjue. Xiajiqing and the others outside the room had expressions of surprise when they saw Mo Yunjue and Bewitching come out together, and walked downstairs without saying a word. Bewitching and Mo Yunjue were completely incomprehensible to them. In theory, these two people should be like fire and water when they meet. But looking at the situation, it was completely different. After Bailey Hongzhuang walked out of the room, she saw everyone gathered and her clear eyes filled with surprise. "What are you all doing here?" Xiajiqing moved to Bailey Hongzhuang's side. "Hongzhuang, what did you say to Mo Yunjue?" "Nothing much, I just thanked him for helping us." Bailey Hongzhuang replied calmly. Xiajiqing looked at Bailey Hongzhuang, but she couldn't detect any trace of dishonesty or concealment from Bailey Hongzhuang's frank gaze and attitude. It seems that they were overthinking things. "I don't think the relationship between Bewitching and Mo Yunjue is friendly. Now that the two of them have gone out together, could they be looking for a place to have a good fight?" Zhang Yinfeng asked suspiciously. As Zhang Yinfeng finished speaking, Cui Haoyan, Gong Xiaoqing, Dong Fengyu, and Bai Junyu all laughed. Women's thinking is different from men's. They can feel the tension between Bewitching and Mo Yunjue. But both of them are outstanding, and it is unlikely for them to do something so irrational at this time. As for a beating, it may be possible in the future, but it is absolutely impossible now. "You two don't need to worry about it. That kind of thing won't happen," said Cui Haoyan, as he patted Zhang Yunfeng's little head and chuckled in amusement. Zhang Yunfeng and Xiajiqing looked at each other. They didn't understand what the four men were laughing at. Bailey Hongzhuang's gaze fell on Dong Fengyu, and she clearly saw a completely different attitude coming from him. It was as if he had been completely reborn. His energy and spirit had improved. Obviously, Dong Fengyu had recovered from the previous setback, becoming more active, more motivated and mentally resilient. As the mentor said, as long as Dong Fengyu can bounce back from this setback, he will become a brand new Dong Fengyu, which will be of great benefit to his future. Obviously, Dong Fengyu has already felt these benefits. "Dong Fengyu, have you fully recovered?" Bailey Hongzhuang's pitch-black, bright, beautiful eyes flickered with a gleam of surprise, as she smiled brightly. Dong Fengyu nodded slightly, his eyes bright like stars. "I'm fine now. You all worried about me. As long as you're okay, that's good." "Your temperament has also changed," said Bailey Hongzhuang with a light smile. A change in a person's heart can also lead to a certain change in their appearance. As Bailey Hongzhuang said this, Xiajiqing nodded repeatedly. "Yes, I also feel that Dong Fengyu has become even more handsome than before. This time, Dong Fengyu is probably going to attract even more screams from the junior sisters when he goes back, haha." Zhang Yinfeng chuckled lightly. Although they had experienced various risks during their trip to Qingxiao Kingdom, the final outcome was not bad. Failure. Han Shilling, Bewitching and Mo Yunjue walked out of the inn without saying a word. Neither of them was in a hurry. Bewitching knew that Mo Yunjue had something to say to him, but he didn't know what it was. The two walked all the way to the first floor, and after Bewitching followed Mo Yunjue into the private room, he spoke up. "You can just tell me what's going on." Looking at Bewitching's calm appearance, Mo Yunjue had a faint smile on his lips, but his deep black eyes had quietly become a bit cold. "Bewitching, Since you want to be with Hongzhuang, then take good care of her, and don't let her fall into danger. Bewitching raised an eyebrow and said, "Don't worry, such a thing won't happen again." He had already secretly vowed that he would never let such a thing happen again. Thinking that he might have arrived too late this time, and Bailey Hongzhuang might have left him forever, he felt an indescribable suffocation. He couldn't afford such a price, so this was the only and last time. Listening to Bewitching's words, Mo Yunjue sneered. "It seems that Hongzhuang hasn't told you about that matter yet." After Mo Yunjue's statement, Bewitching couldn't help but furrow his handsome brows. "What do you mean?" Mo Yunjue looked at Bewitching and said, "I know you are always excellent, but sometimes it's not a good thing. Please explain clearly what exactly happened." Bewitching's expression slightly condensed. He understood that Mo Yunjue was not speaking nonsense, and had a purpose behind his words. So, what else happened during his absence? Bailey Hongzhuang had never mentioned this matter to him. What kind of thing could it be? "I've said before that Han Shiling's appearance is your downfall. If you can't handle Han Shiling well, I might be able to snatch away Hongzhuang from you." Mo Yunjue spoke slowly. He understood that Bailey Hongzhuang's feelings for Bewitching, so he wouldn't interfere. However, if Bewitching is not good enough to Bailey Hongzhuang, then he would not be polite. As soon as these words came out, Bewitching had already discovered some clues. The last time he saw Mo Yunjue, he also mentioned Han Shiling to him. But he didn't take it to heart, and just thought it was something Mo Yunjue casually mentioned. After all, he and Han Shiling had always been praised by everyone as a match made in heaven. It seems that things were not that simple. Han Shiling has already made a move, and she didn't hesitate to use the people of the Heaven Slayer House one to strike. Moreover, she sent 2 groups of assassins at once. Obviously, she is determined to get rid of Bailey Hongzhuang. Mo Yunjue's deep voice was vigilant. Bailey Hongzhuang didn't mention it, because she didn't want to embarrass Bewitching. But he would not let Bailey Hongzhuang suffer such grievances. There was a layer of waves in the handsome eyes as deep as the sea, but Bewitching's heart was full of shock and turmoil. If Mo Yunjue hadn't told him this news, he might not know when he would find out. He didn't doubt what Mo Yunjue said, because there was no need for Mo Yunjue to deceive him. "Are you sure it's Han Shiling? Are you sure it's Han Shiling?" Bewitching spoke slowly, thinking of his former junior sister, and a difficult-to-express emotion welled up in his heart. Mo Yunjue chuckled. "Whether you believe it or not is up to you. But if you can't even handle this kind of problem, I think you might as well let go." "I won't let go." Mo Yunjue's eyes were like a black hole, and he couldn't see the slightest clue. As far as he is concerned, in this world only Bailey Hongzhuang is a special existence. Other women are nothing more than skeletons with makeup. Even if he killed them, he wouldn't bat an eye. "I won't let go." Bewitching abruptly stood up, without even taking a sip of the tea on the table, and walked out. However, as he walked outside of the private room, his low and resolute voice also reached the ears of Mo Yunjue. "I won't give you the slightest chance." With these words, Bewitching strode decisively towards the outside of the room. Yes, he would not give Mo Yunjue a chance. He was negligent before, but he would make up for this mistake. He takes care of his wife himself. No one could understand what Bailey Hongzhuang meant to him. As far as he is concerned, there is only one Bailey Hongzhuang in the world, and she is the only partner that he, Bewitching, has chosen for this lifetime. Only her. Mo Yunjue watched as Bewitching left, the smile on his lips gradually fading away, his eyes pitch black without any glimmer of light. He has always been a lurker, and no one has ever cared about his joys and sorrows. He has no attachment to life or death. Whether he's alive or dead, he feels no joy in living and no pain in dying. But now, Bailey Hongzhuang is the only person who means something to him. He does what he says he will do. If Bewitching doesn't take good care of Bailey Hongzhuang, he will definitely not let her go. When Bewitching returned to the inn, almost everyone could feel Bewitching's depression. Under the influence of such depression, everyone looked at each other in blank dismay, completely unaware of what happened. Sure enough, it's never a good thing when rivals meet. To make Bewitching show such an expression, This situation is really serious. Xia Jiqing looked at Di Beichen and Bailey Hongzhuang. Although Mo Yunjue is a good person, she hopes that Bailey Hongzhuang can be with Di Beichen properly. Zhang Yunfeng also shrugged. I don't know what happened. It's better for us not to talk about it. Gong Xiaoqing Dongfangyu. Bai Junyu and Cui Haoyan all ate without saying a word. This is Di Beichen and Bailey Hongzhuang's matter as a couple, so they didn't want to get involved. Bailey Hongzhuang also sensed the changes in Di Beichen's emotions. She didn't know what Mo Yunjue and Di Beichen had talked about. In theory, no matter what happened, it shouldn't have caused Di Beichen to become like this. Unless, thinking carefully, Bailey Hongzhuang suddenly thought of a possibility. It is impossible for Di Beichen to be angry with her. And it makes no sense for Di Beichen to be angry with Mo Yunjue. In this case, there is only one possibility. He is angry with himself. When every other possibility is eliminated, there is only one possibility left. Han Xiling. Thinking of this, Bailey Hongzhuang didn't say much, but continued to eat the rice in the bowl. She didn't want to tell Di Beichen about this. After all, it was a war between her and Han Xiling. Han Xiling has already taken action against her. And she also feels cold towards Han Xiling. If they meet again in the future, and there is an opportunity, she will not show mercy. However, Mo Yunjue told Di Beichen about this, changing the situation somewhat. However, this may not be a bad thing either, as she can better understand Di Beichen's attitude sooner. Thinking about it, Mo Yunjue didn't want her to be wrong because of this, so he told Di Beichen about it. She really didn't know how to thank Mo Yunjue for his concern for her. Shy, three beasts after the meal, Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen went back into the room together. Xia Jiqing and the others looked at the closed door with a hint of worry in their eyes. Could Mo Yunjue have directly declared war on Di Beichen? Otherwise, Di Beichen's mood wouldn't be so bad. Sighed Xia Jiqing. Dongfangyu shook his head slightly. If it was just a declaration of war, with Di Beichen's temperament, he would not be so angry. He had completely let go of his feelings, and only outstanding men like Di Beichen and Mo Yunjue were worthy of Bailey Hongzhuang. He would be the better man. Hearing this, Zhang Yunfeng was stunned. Really? He wouldn't be so angry as to declare war directly. What exactly did Mo Yunjue say to Di Beichen? I don't know. Cui Haoyan shook his head. Wars between men can be very frightening. You guys don't have to worry. There won't be any problem between Di Beichen and Bailey Hongzhuang. Rest early tonight. We will set off tomorrow. Gong Xiaoqing looked at everyone helplessly, but he also understood that all of this came from everyone's concern for Bailey Hongzhuang and Mo Yunjue. Everyone looked at each other in silence and felt that Gong Xiaoqing was right. There was no point in worrying. As soon as Bailey Hongzhuang entered the room, she was immediately cornered by Di Beichen, who pressed her against the door. You. Before Bailey Hongzhuang could finish her sentence, Di Beichen's handsome face rapidly filled her vision, and his lips pressed against hers. The warm touch was soft yet domineering. This kiss was different from Di Beichen's usual gentleness. It was filled with dominance and possessiveness, crushing her lips, turning and twisting as he greedily savored her sweetness. Bailey Hongzhuang froze, but she could feel Di Beichen's crazy suppressed emotions. Her arms slowly wrapped around Di Beichen's neck. Her pretty face flushed shyly as she cooperated with Di Beichen. Di Beichen's original violent and nervous emotions slowly calmed down after feeling Bailey Hongzhuang's gentle response, but the desire and hope in his eyes deepened. His wife just made him feel like he couldn't stop, and every time he got a little bit, he always wanted more. Her rose-like red lips were so alluring that they seemed to be dripping with dew. Her crimson face was tinged with shyness and uncertainty, and the fair skin on her neck, faintly tinted with a blush, were irresistible. The next moment, Di Beichen immediately hugged Bailey Hongzhuang around her waist and came to the bed. As for those three beasts, they were already so embarrassed when they saw this scene that they didn't know what to do. This passionate scene is really not suitable for children. The three beasts entered the ring of chaos immediately and maintained the same posture, covering their eyes and facing the wall, thinking about it. Di Beichen gently kissed Bailey Hongzhuang's lips. The tenderness in his eyes could almost melt everything. His wife can only be his, and no one else can have designs on her. Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes were blurred, looking at that handsome face as beautiful as a god's shrine. Her eyes were full of tenderness. Bewitching kissed her passionately, lightly kissing every inch of her lips. He was deeply intoxicated by her faint and charming fragrance. With his big hands moving down, Bailey Hongzhuang was dazed and confused. All of this was strange to her. And with Bewitching, she couldn't bear to refuse. When Bewitching's hand touched something soft, Bailey Hongzhuang couldn't help but freeze. Her right hand also grabbed Bewitching's big hand, and her clear eyes showed a trace of panic. My wife. I'm not stupid. Sensing the changes in Bailey Hongzhuang's body, Bewitching also noticed the flash of panic and tension in her eyes. At this moment, Bailey Hongzhuang was like a cute little white rabbit in his arms, so endearing, available for anyone to pick up. Bewitching regained a trace of rationality. He knew that Bailey Hongzhuang was not mentally prepared, and his attack did catch her off guard. He took Bailey Hongzhuang into his arms, felt her trembling, and his heart ached. My dear, you are the most important person to me. Bewitching's voice was low, like a murmured confession. Never leave me. Bailey Hongzhuang leaned against Bewitching's chest, and felt the worry in his words. She nodded slightly and said, I won't leave you. She didn't know why Bewitching had these worries, but she only wanted him to feel at ease. Bewitching hugged Bailey Hongzhuang tightly, but his movements were exceptionally gentle. He was too impulsive today, and Hongzhuang's injuries were not completely healed yet. Wife, did assassins attack you before? Bewitching's gaze regained its composure. The reason he lost control of his emotions was because he understood that what Mo Yunjue said was not wrong. If he doesn't handle the issue of Han Xiling well, he might really lose Bailey Hongzhuang. Bailey Hongzhuang had asked him this question back then, and he had always thought that Han Xiling would not do such a thing. But if all of this was true, then he had no choice but to take action. Bailey Hongzhuang thought about it for a moment, then nodded slightly. That's right. Bewitching already knew that, so she had no need to conceal it. In fact, she also didn't know enough about the assassin. Seeing Bailey Hongzhuang's confession, Bewitching's eyes darkened, and his expression turned a bit cold. Wife, I didn't expect Xiling to do such a thing. Bewitching's brows were already furrowed. It seems that the junior sister in his mind was not really a junior sister. He had never paid attention to what Han Xiling was hiding. In the past, he had always practiced with Han Xiling in the sect. At that time, Han Xiling clearly didn't have such scheming intentions. It had been 3 years since he left the Tiangang sect. It seems that during those 3 years, Han Xiling had changed a lot. He shouldn't continue to view Han Xiling with the previous perspective. It's just that he hadn't wanted to believe it. Seeing that Bewitching did not hesitate to believe that Han Xiling was responsible for this, Bailey Hongzhuang was also surprised. After all, Bewitching did not have such an attitude before. How can you be sure that it's Han Xiling? Her pitch-black eyes were tinged with a hint of surprise. Although she also believed that Han Xiling was responsible for this matter, she had no evidence yet. Bewitching looked at Bailey Hongzhuang with shame. His wife, in order to not make things difficult for him, didn't even mention such a thing. Speaking of which, his previous attitude must have made Bailey Hongzhuang feel very helpless. My wife, I'm not stupid. With just this simple sentence, Bailey Hongzhuang already understood. She already figured it out. How could Bewitching not understand? Did you meet with Mo Yunjue back then? Even though Mo Yunjue didn't say anything, Bewitching immediately figured it out. If it weren't for this, Mo Yunjue wouldn't have known about the appearance of the assassin. And with Han Xiling's personality, once she acts, she is sure to destroy Bailey Hongzhuang. I will handle this matter. Bewitching could imagine that during that time, Bailey Hongzhuang must have gone through some risks again. After he went back, he felt that something was strange in the sect. Now it seems that the issues in the sect may have been deliberately caused by Han Xiling to distract him and make it easier for her to attack Bailey Hongzhuang. Thinking of this, Bewitching felt a chill in his heart. So many things had happened during the time he was away. No matter what happens in the future, He couldn't let Bailey Hongzhuang face everything alone again. What Mo Yunjue said was right. He was indeed not a competent husband. However, that was before. He would not let such a thing happen again in the future. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded slightly and said, "Yes, I encountered the first wave of assassins." And then Mo Yunjue appeared. The second wave of killers left after realizing that they couldn't attack me. After that, I stayed with everyone and never acted alone. So the assassins never had the chance to make a move. Now that you are here, I think those assassins have already left. Her clear and bright beautiful eyes shone with a calm and confident light. Han Xiling had been reckless in trying to kill her. But when Bewitching appeared, Han Xiling became more cautious. Because Han Xiling didn't mind showing her cruel side to anyone, except for Bewitching. Bewitching was not surprised either. He gently stroked Bailey Hongzhuang's long black and silky hair. "I will handle this matter." Bailey Hongzhuang detected the decisiveness in Bewitching's words, and she understood that he had already made a decision. In fact, she had been reluctant to mention Han Xiling in front of Bewitching before. And she also didn't want to cause difficulties for Bewitching. If it weren't for Han Xiling's help during those years, Bewitching's situation in the kingdom of Fengbua would probably have been even worse. Therefore, she also felt grateful to Han Xiling. However, when Han Xiling tried to have her assassinated, all that was gone. It was clearly not Bailey Hongzhuang's style to not take revenge. Bewitching wrapped Bailey Hongzhuang in his arms. Her refreshing scent filled his nostrils, and his frown quietly eased. Only when he was with Bailey Hongzhuang could he be so at ease and relaxed. During the days when he was away, he constantly worried about Bailey Hongzhuang, hoping that everything could be resolved as soon as possible, so that he could return earlier. Seeing Bailey Hongzhuang's injuries earlier, he focused all his attention on Bailey Hongzhuang's injuries. Now that her injuries had improved somewhat, he finally relaxed completely. Bailey Hongzhuang is a unique treasure to him, and only when he was by her side could he feel at ease. At this moment, holding Bailey Hongzhuang in his arms felt extremely comfortable. Bailey Hongzhuang was also quietly leaning against Bewitching's chest, listening to his powerful heartbeat. For her, this tranquil moment was also a kind of enjoyment. She understood that when Bewitching said he would handle it, he would definitely handle it. Perhaps Bewitching still had some hesitation before, but now that he had made a decision, it would naturally be much easier to deal with. After a long while, Bewitching finally said, "Wife, I have never heard that you also have talent in the art of inscriptions before." If it weren't for the arrival of Bai Jingtian and the others, he might not have known about this. He never knew that his wife had such an ability. It is really amazing. The two principals bite the bullet. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled faintly and said, "I haven't been studying inscription techniques for long. I just happened to meet Bai Lao and had a conversation with him while I was in the Qingxiao kingdom." Bewitching's lips curled into a slight smile, and his slender and glossy fingers brushed over Bailey Hongzhuang's delicate and petite nose. "How many surprises do you still have in store for me?" Although what Bailey Hongzhuang said were simple, Bewitching understood that just the fact that Bai Jingtian was willing to give up the position of president of the Inscription Masters Guild to Bailey Hongzhuang already proved how outstanding her proficiency in inscription techniques was. As a doctor, alchemist or inscription master, Bailey Hongzhuang's talents amazed him. Disregarding her identity as a cultivator, he had never seen a person as gifted as Bailey Hongzhuang. Her achievements in these three aspects were already surprising. Others said he was excellent, but he felt that Hongzhuang was even better than him. Perhaps, the encounter between him and Hongzhuang was destined to happen from the beginning. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled lightly. She was indeed very interested in the art of inscription. Although learning inscription would take a lot of time and effort, she was a little different from other cultivators. While other cultivators were sleeping, she cultivated instead of sleeping. In this way, she saved a lot of time. Back when her family elders told her to cultivate instead of sleep, she found it extremely painful at first. However, after getting used to it, she found that this way of doing things was quite good. Cultivation also makes people feel refreshed and invigorated, and it allowed her to have more time to study alchemy. It was precisely because of this that she was able to achieve such great results in both cultivation and alchemy. While Bailey Hongzhuang was talking to Di Beichen, Jian Qingqiu and Song Hongxi also came to the inn. When everyone in Kanglin Academy saw Jian Qingqiu and Song Hongxi, a look of disgust appeared on their faces. They no longer had the respect for these two principals that they did in Italy. Everything they did disgusted them, and they do not want to see them again. Once upon a time, these academy principals were seen as highly respected figures towering above others. But now, all of this had disappeared. Jian Qingqiu and Song Hongxi naturally knew that the people of Kanglin Academy did not welcome them. But they came out of helplessness. Nangong Oui found out that the Kanglin Academy team would leave Qingxiao Kingdom tomorrow, and had asked the two of them to find a way to get the antidote from Bailey Hongzhuang. Jian Qingqiu and Song Hongxi were extremely helpless about this, but Nangong Oui's attitude was very insistent, and they had to come. When they first learned of this matter, the two of them were also surprised. They didn't expect that Bailey Hongzhuang would be so ruthless and experienced in her methods, not at all like an ordinary academy student. How big is the gap between the royal family and Bailey Hongzhuang? However, Bailey Hongzhuang made the entire royal family of the Qingxiao Kingdom powerless against her. Why did the two principals come here today? Asked Huan Qiu nonchalantly after seeing Jian Qingqiu and the other person. He no longer had a good impression of them after what had happened earlier, so he was not polite when he saw them again. Feeling the coldness from Huan Qiu, Jian Qingqiu and Song Hongxi looked at each other. The helplessness in their eyes intensified, but they could only force their smiles. Elder Huan, can we go inside and talk? There were so many students here, it was really inconvenient for them to talk. Neither salty nor bland, Huan Qiu also noticed where Jian Qingqiu's gaze was directed. After a moment of contemplation, he nodded and said, "Please come in." With those words, Huan Qiu did not even glance at Jian Qingqiu, and walked into the house by himself, displaying his indifference. As academy principals, Jian Qingqiu and Song Hongxi had never received such cold treatment before. Previously, they were always high and mighty when facing Huan Qiu and Ren Tianxiong. Unexpectedly, fortunes reversed, and now that Huan Qiu had decided to cut ties with the other two major academies, it was their turn to come to him and seek his help. Such a change really made them helpless. Gong Xiaoqing and others saw Huan Qiu's attitude towards Jian Qingqiu, and they were relieved. Their hearts were not so forgiving, and they could not ignore the secret means used by the two principals. The treatment they are receiving now is what they brought upon themselves. Even Lu Huayan and Fu Hongba, who were watching Jian Qingqiu with cold eyes, did not believe that the two major academies would go well in the future. They believed that those who persisted in wrongdoing would eventually destroy themselves. Jian Qingqiu and Song Hongxi followed Huan Qiu into the room. Huan Qiu sat down on the chair with a calm expression, poured a cup of tea leisurely, took a sip before finally turning his gaze towards Jian Qingqiu and Song Hongxi. "Did you both come here specifically to see me off tomorrow, knowing that I'm leaving?" Hearing the slightly mocking words from Huan Qiu, Jian Qingqiu's expression was somewhat troubled. He knew in his heart that Huan Qiu was not a stupid person, and that he already knew what his purpose was for coming here at this moment. But now that the antidote was in the hands of Bailey Hongzhuang, no matter what Huan Qiu says, he could only endure it. Indeed, knowing that Elder Huan will be leaving tomorrow, we as old friends have come to visit. Jian Qingqiu said slowly. "Thank you," said Huan Qiu indifferently, without much enthusiasm. When Kanglin College fell into a disadvantage back then, they often suffered ridicule and mockery from Jian Qingqiu and the Song Hongxi. They didn't hesitate to add insult to injury. Now that he had decided to give up everything, instead of having to swallow his pride, he could take advantage of this opportunity to hold his head up high and breathe freely. He didn't know what the Kanglin Academy would look like in the future, but he could only be sure that he would not regret the decision he made. Seeing Huan Qiu's cold attitude, Jian Qingqiu and Song Hongxi couldn't help but look at each other. Despite having already guessed the possibility of everything before setting off, when it actually happened, they still felt very uncomfortable. "Elder Huan, you were really too impulsive that day," We never had any intention of severing ties with Kanglin Academy, said Song Hongxi. When Huan Chuyu made this decision, he was also surprised. He didn't expect that Huan Chuyu would be reckless and take extreme measures. Huan Chuyu gave a cold sneer and said, "Isn't this what you have been striving for all these years? Now that I have granted your wish, you are not happy?" Hearing Huan Chuyu's merciless words, Song Hongxi and Jian Qingqiu's expressions changed slightly. It seems that this time Huan Chuyu has really made up his mind and has no intention of changing his decision at all. "Elder Huan, what you said is a bit hurtful. We didn't have such thoughts," Jian Qingqiu said hastily. In the past, Huan Chuyu might have pretended to accept this excuse, but now he didn't care. Slap in the face. "You are not welcome, forget it. I know what you have been planning all these years. Now I don't care. Kanglin Academy will not compete with you for a little bit of fame. You can do whatever you want." These hypocritical words are unnecessary. Bailey Hongzhuang won't hand over the antidote, and that is our decision. Looking at Jian Qingqiu and Song Hongxi's hypocritical faces again, Huan Chuyu didn't even have the want to deal with them. That was all there was to say. Bailey Hongzhuang had already made up her mind. No matter how much the royal family wanted to salvage the situation, she would not waver. Last time when Chu Jio came with the two other people, he made a special effort to understand Bailey Hongzhuang's thoughts. After learning that Bailey Hongzhuang's decision was so firm, he understood. As for Jian Qingqiu and Song Hongxi, he had no relationship with them anymore, and he was not willing to pay too much attention to them either. Jian Qingqiu and Song Hongxi were stunned. They didn't expect Huan Chuyu to speak so bluntly. In this way, the two of them didn't know what to say at all. Huan Chuyu had completely closed off all possible room for maneuver. "Elder Huan, what you're saying disregards all the friendship and emotions we've built up over the years." Jian Qingqiu's face looked a bit unpleasant. He never expected Huan Chuyu's attitude would be so resolute. However, listening to Jian Qingqiu's words, Huan Chuyu's face remained unchanged. "From your actions over the years, our past relationship has long disappeared. Elder Huan, you've gone too far." Song Hongxi couldn't help but frown. All three of them had prestigious identities, and given the current status of the Kanglin Academy, Huan Chuyu should have been more polite to them. Huan Chuyu sneered. Song Hongxi hadn't figured out the true situation yet. There was no reason to even pretending him at this point. "I've gone too far, so what? Haven't you done many excessive things over the years? The principles of the academies throughout history have always aimed to develop cultivators, but you have attached yourselves to the royal family for your own fame. Perhaps now you have great fame, but one day, when your power is completely usurped by the royal family, and you become their puppet, I will be happy to see it. Now you may leave." Huan Chuyu stood up. His face, which had always been kind and soft, was already full of indifference at now. Their paths had diverged. Although they are both principals of academies, they had very different ideas, and there was no point in continuing to maintain that hypocritical friendship. Jian Qingqiu and Song Hongxi's faces were livid. This was simply a blatant slap in the face from Huan Chuyu. If they hadn't seen it with their own eyes, they would have found it hard to believe that Huan Chuyu, who usually had a gentle and kind expression, could say such words. However, Jian Qingqiu's heart couldn't help but feel heavy. Huan Chuyu's words were tantamount to smashing a stone in his heart again. As Huan Chuyu said, the involvement of the royal family's power was truly terrifying. Nowadays, the royal family's influence at Lingyin Academy was less than that of the principal himself. Perhaps, in the future, Lingyin Academy will become an academy completely owned by the Qingxiao Kingdom's royal family. But by the time he realized it, it would be too late. "Huan Chuyu has really gone too far," said Song Hongxi with a displeased expression on his face. He had already swallowed his price by coming here today, but Huan Chuyu was still rude. Meticulous, Bewitching the next day. As soon as day broke, Bailey Hongzhuang and the others got up early and started preparing to leave the imperial city of Qingxiao Kingdom. Xia Jiqing and the others were in a good mood. Yesterday, They were pleased to see the two principals who were usually arrogant and overbearing, leaving dejectedly. Di Beichen supported Bailey Hongzhuang as they walked out of the inn. Bailey Hongzhuang's demeanor had returned to normal, and no one could tell that she was still injured. Let's go. Bailey Hongzhuang had a warm and bright smile on her lips. She had been resting in the inn for the past few days, but today, just stepping outside and feeling the brilliant sunshine, made her feel exceptionally comfortable. As she spoke, Bailey Hongzhuang walked up to the horse and immediately prepared to mount. Madam, wait. Di Beichen's lips curved into a warm smile as he pulled Bailey Hongzhuang back. Your injuries have not fully healed, and the bumps from a horse are not good for your wounds. Upon hearing this, Bailey Hongzhuang's beautiful eyes showed a hint of surprise. Not ride a horse? How will we travel then? Di Beichen reached out and rubbed Bailey Hongzhuang's head, finding her confused expression particularly adorable. Immediately afterwards, a luxurious carriage appeared in front of Bailey Hongzhuang. The carriage was spacious and magnificent, exuding a subtle yet extravagant elegance that immediately revealed its extraordinary quality. I have no objection to your leaving the Qingshao kingdom, but your injuries require traveling by carriage. Although it is slightly slower than riding a horse, it will have less impact on your injuries. Di Beichen's voice was low and filled with tenderness as he carefully explained everything to Bailey Hongzhuang. He understood that Bailey Hongzhuang didn't want everyone to stay under the surveillance of Qingshao Kingdom's royal family. But to him, Bailey Hongzhuang's health was the most important thing. Therefore, this was the only way for them to leave. Bailey Hongzhuang's phoenix eyes raised slightly, and she saw at a glance the deep and caring gaze full of love from the Di Beichen. Her heart couldn't help but ripple like waves on a lake, surging and spreading out. Xia Jiqing, Zhang Yinfeng, and others all looked at Bailey Hongzhuang with envy and teasing. Having an attentive and meticulous husband like Di Beichen is simply the dream of all women. This man, who combines family background, appearance and strength, and shows such care and consideration for Bailey Hongzhuang, is truly amazing. Bailey Hongzhuang's heart was filled with Di Beichen's sparkling and smiling star-like eyes. She nodded slightly and said, "Okay." Di Beichen helped Bailey Hongzhuang onto the carriage. As soon as she got on the carriage, Bailey Hongzhuang discovered that the entire carriage was lined with Huajin soft satin, which was soft and comfortable, and could minimize the impact of bumps. Bailey Hongzhuang immediately understood. She had scarcely seen Di Beichen yesterday during the day. It turns out that he had gone to help her prepare these things. Her heart felt a bit of warmth. Xia Jiqing and the others also noticed the carriage conditions and couldn't help but sigh. Taking the opportunity, while Di Beichen was returning to the inn to gather around Bailey Hongzhuang. Hongzhuang, you are so fortunate to be able to find a husband like Di Beichen. It's really a blessing. Zhang Yinfeng gave a thumbs up to Bailey Hongzhuang. An excellent and perfect woman like Hongzhuang deserved to be happy. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled sweetly. Why don't we all ride in the carriage together? We don't need it. Xia Jiqing playfully blinked at Bailey Hongzhuang and said, "This was specially prepared for you by Di Beichen." Three beasts brought out seeing Xia Jiqing and Zhang Yinfeng secretly giggling. Bailey Hongzhuang couldn't help but feel a little helpless. But a warm smile appeared at the corner of her mouth. Baisher was comfortably lying on a soft cushion, rolling around and squinting its eyes with a lazy and comfortable appearance. Xiao He and Xiao Bai also jumped down from Bailey Hongzhuang's head, unwilling to be left out. Their bodies transformed into the size of Baisher, and they also rolled around the carriage. "Master, Di Beichen really cares about you. I am satisfied, haha." Xiao He hugged the fruit plate beside him, happily eating the fruit while commenting on Bailey Hongzhuang from time to time. "I think so too." Xiao Bai nodded in agreement, especially since Di Beichen had prepared so much delicious food in the carriage. It was extremely satisfied. Bailey Hongzhuang glanced at the excited Xiao He and Xiao Bai. These two foodies always act like children. No matter who gives them food, they always say that person is the best. Baisher didn't have a strong craving for fruit, but he just stretched and went to Bailey Hongzhuang to show off his cuteness. After rubbing his little head against her, he asked for a piece of demon crystal. Although food is good, demon crystals are still the most delicious. Bailey Hongzhuang shook her head helplessly. Her contracted beasts were all a bunch of foodies. And by sure ate the least, but also the most expensive food. Bewitching quickly got into the carriage as well. His clear and handsome face revealed a warm and charming smile towards Bailey Hongzhuang. He noticed a hint of helplessness in her expression, and saw the three little ones next to her, each holding something and nibbling on it. The smile in his eyes deepened a bit. Sitting beside Bailey Hongzhuang, Bewitching said, I specially prepared a lot of food for these three little guys, so you can rest assured. You are good at winning people's hearts. The three of them have all been saying good things about you. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled lightly, noticing the handsome and extraordinary man beside her, who she wanted to spend the rest of her life with. The slender eyelashes cast a bit of shadow on her face like a fan, but those eyes, which are as bright as stars, were so dazzling and intoxicating. Bewitching reached out to embrace Bailey Hongzhuang's shoulders. The corners of his lips curved upwards. If you want to successfully capture your lady's heart, you naturally need to find a few little helpers. Hearing this, Bailey Hongzhuang laughed silently, but a touch of sincere gratitude appeared in her eyebrows and eyes. Thank you for preparing this for me. Bewitching's eyes flickered slightly. You are my wife, everything I do for you is only natural. She was such a beautiful woman, that he would feel heartache just seeing her frown. Nangong Ouchin can't hold on any longer. Will Nangong Oui be like a cornered beast? Bailey Hongzhuang leaned against Bewitching's shoulder, but her gaze was fixed on the outside of the carriage. Nangong Oui's status was held in her hands in such a way, and she was afraid that Nangong Oui would not be able to bear it. In the end, it is not impossible for him to die from the exposure. The majestic ruler of a country, yet he suffered such a great loss because of a student like her. Even his most cherished son is now on the verge of death. He may not be able to bear such humiliation. Don't worry, he doesn't dare. The low and magnetic voice was filled with a reassuring power, as if his presence alone could hold up the sky for Bailey Hongzhuang, easing her worries about everything. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded slightly. She always believed what Bewitching said. Although they experienced some risks by coming to Qingxiao Kingdom, fortunately, it has brought her closer to Bewitching's heart. Bloodstained abyss. Just as Bailey Hongzhuang expected, when their team left the Qingxiao Kingdom Imperial City, Nangong Oui could no longer bear it. However, even though he is a ruler of the kingdom, the royal family was not solely governed by him. Even though he wanted to go all out and do something, the elders in the royal family wouldn't allow it. Therefore, he could only watch as Bailey Hongzhuang and the others left the imperial city unharmed. Before Bailey Hongzhuang and others left, Nangong Ouchin couldn't hold on any longer. Even though the royal family searched for famous doctors, no one could unravel this strange poison. This made Nangong Oui extremely angry. It was unbelievable that the poison produced by a young cultivator could stump so many people. As Bailey Hongzhuang had previously warned, after Nangong Oui stayed with Nangong Ouchin often, he began to feel somewhat uncomfortable. The imperial physician diagnosis was that Nangong Oui's condition was the same as Nangong Ouchin's. It turned out to be a contagious poison. The entire royal family was shocked. How terrifying would it be to have a contagious poison? It was the crown prince first, and now it is the emperor. The Qingxiao Kingdom's royal family was really facing a huge crisis this time. Nangong Oui had been skeptical of what Chu Jio and the others had said before. But when this situation really happened, he realized that it was already too late. After learning this news, Chu Jio and other two were shaken. They had always believed what Bailey Hongzhuang said, but when this really happened they were shocked. It was terrifying that Bailey Hongzhuang actually had such a poison in her possession. While the royal family of the Qingxiao Kingdom was in such turmoil, Bailey Hongzhuang and others had already left, and they no longer had anything to do with the Qingxiao Kingdom whatsoever. Wife, are you planning to go back to Kanglan Academy after leaving Qingxiao Kingdom? Bewitching asked, turning his head and looking at Bailey Hongzhuang tenderly. Bailey Hongzhuang raised her brows slightly and asked, What do you mean by asking me this? You have already broken through to the Red Realm. There is a place for experience that will be helpful to you, but it is also dangerous. However, I will accompany you. Do you want to go? Hearing this, a look of interest appeared in Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes. "What is it?" she asked. "The bloodstained abyss," came the reply. Bailey Hongzhuang thought to herself. She had never heard of the bloodstained abyss, but just hearing its name, she knew that this place was not simple. What's in the bloodstained abyss? A look of interest flashed in her black, bright phoenix eyes. She was very interested just from hearing the name. From Bewitching's gaze, she could tell that this place would be helpful to her, so it would naturally be a very good place. But just from its name, it made her feel a little bloody. The bloodstained abyss is located in a deep abyss in Snow City. Originally, this place was called the Snowfield Abyss, but it was renamed the bloodstained abyss after it was stained with too much blood. The bloodstained abyss is a very peculiar place where many heinous people gather. There are no rules there, and the only law is strength. It's bloody and violent. However, there is a 9-story tower in the bloodstained abyss, which holds a mysterious inheritance. Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes lit up. She immediately understood that Bewitching's purpose for letting her go was to obtain this inheritance. After all, every inheritance has been refined over thousands of tests and trials, so this inheritance should not be simple either. The miraculous inheritance. What kind of inheritance? The delicate and perfect face shone with curiosity and interest. Just listening to Bewitching's words, Bailey Hongzhuang already knew that the bloodstained abyss had existed for a long time. To be able to gather so many heinous people there, it was likely that the place was in an area that was not governed by any authority. Otherwise, such a place would not exist at all. "Madam, since stepping into the Red Realm, you should be aware of the existence of coercion, right?" Bewitching calmly explained to Bailey Hongzhuang. As he had expected, his wife was very interested in this. Not only did she never feel the slightest bit of fear of the blood in the bloodstained abyss, on the contrary, she didn't feel the slightest bit of fear, and was in fact a little impatient. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded slightly and said, "Coercion is the suppression of the weak by the strong through their aura. Under this coercion, the strength of the weak will be limited, and it will affect their combat effectiveness. For the strong, coercion can be a very advantageous tool. It can create an absolute advantage, as the strong don't even need to make a move. They can just release their coercion and cause trouble for their opponents." That's right. In this bloodstained abyss, there is a kind of miraculous inheritance similar to coercion. Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes brightened a little. How could there be such an inheritance in the world? The 3 abysses of the Shengxian continent are the bloodstained abyss, the abyss of magic refinement, and the abyss of the sea of bitterness. These 3 abysses have 3 inheritances, each of which is very difficult to obtain. Among them, the bloodstained abyss has the lowest threshold for its trial. You can try it if you reach the Red Realm cultivation level. Over the years, after numerous discoveries by cultivators, they determined that only the Red Realm cultivation level has the greatest possibility of inheritance. The higher the cultivation level, the less likely one will be able to obtain the inheritance. Hearing Bewitching's description, Bailey Hongzhuang's heart was shaken. She never thought that there were these 3 abysses in the Shengxian continent. Just hearing the names gave her the feeling that these 3 abysses were not simple, and the existence of such an inheritance was really strange. So, does that mean only cultivators at the Red Realm can attempt to obtain the heritage of the bloodstained abyss? Bailey Hongzhuang immediately understood. Usually, the stronger the cultivator's strength, the easier it would be for them to obtain the inheritance. However, it was strange that there were such cultivation restrictions in the bloodstained abyss. Bewitching nodded slightly and said, "Among the 3 great abysses, the bloodstained abyss has the most people trying, so it is relatively easier to obtain the inheritance. However, this so-called easier is relative to the other 2 abysses. In fact, there are very few who can obtain the inheritance. Even if you can't obtain the inheritance, it's a good choice to go to the bloodstained abyss and gain some experience." Bewitching understood that Bailey Hongzhuang's desire was to become stronger. The Lan family is a huge obstacle for Bailey Hongzhuang. Therefore, he wanted to accompany Bailey Hongzhuang on her journey of growth and become stronger with her. "I'll go. Bailey Hongzhuang made the decision without hesitation. How could she not go to such a magical place? Regardless of whether she could obtain an inheritance or not, it would be great to just experience it. Seeing Bailey Hongzhuang's decisive decision, Bewitching smiled and said, "Okay, we will go together. Can you tell me about the abyss of magic refinement and the abyss of the sea of bitterness?" Bailey Hongzhuang looked at Bewitching curiously with her eyes as bright as water. These kind of places sounded extraordinary. Bloodstained abyss. She has taken a fancy to it. Seeing that Bailey Hongzhuang was so interested, Bewitching continued to describe it to her. The abyss of magic refinement also has a kind of inheritance, but it can only be attempted after reaching the blue realm. Because the threshold is extremely high, there are far fewer people in the abyss of magic refinement than in the bloodstained abyss. However, the cultivators who appear in the abyss of magic refinement are all strong, and a careless move could cost them their lives. The inheritance obtained in the bloodstained abyss is the blood chi aura. Once released, the opponent will be surrounded by endless blood chi. Humans instinctively resist blood, and such a dense blood chi can completely crush the opponent's spirit. Once the blood chi aura is used, the opponent's strength will also be suppressed to a certain extent, but the specific situation depends on the opponent's willpower. What a powerful chi aura! This is a great weapon for cultivators. Bailey Hongzhuang immediately understood the power of this blood chi aura. In combat, this alone could intimidate many opponents. Bewitching smiled faintly, playing with Bailey Hongzhuang's soft, delicate hands and slender fingers. "You seem to be particularly interested in these things," he said. "I am a cultivator, so naturally, I am very interested in these things," Bailey Hongzhuang replied, shaking her little head nonchalantly. She was in love with this blood chi aura. Naturally, there is no need to say much about the power of this blood aura. One can tell by the number of people in the bloodstained abyss. However, both the bloodstained abyss and the abyss of magic refinement are equally bloody and cruel, and countless people die there every year. So after you go there, you must follow me closely. There was a flash of nervousness and seriousness in Bewitching's eyes, and even the hand holding Bailey Hongzhuang tightened. He understood that it was almost impossible for a cultivator not to encounter danger in the process of growth. But the fact that Bailey Hongzhuang suffered such serious injuries this time made him extremely anxious. The danger of going to the bloodstained abyss this time was inevitable, but with him around, Bailey Hongzhuang would definitely not be in danger. Sensing Bewitching's tension and worry, Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes softened a little, and she wrapped her hands around Bewitching's neck, leaning on his chest. "Don't worry, I'll listen to you." Hearing Bailey Hongzhuang's gentle words, Bewitching's tense body relaxed a bit. He never wanted to see Bailey Hongzhuang get hurt again. The inheritance of the bloodstained abyss is the blood chi aura. So what is the inheritance of the abyss of magic refinement? Bailey Hongzhuang asked curiously. The inheritance of abyss of magic refinement is the murderous aura. The power of the murderous aura is more terrifying than the blood chi aura. Once the murderous aura is released, the opponent will be surrounded by endless killing intent. The deterrent power is greater, and the lethality is stronger. Bailey Hongzhuang immediately understood. The dense killing intent alone was enough to make a person fearful, and when the killing intent formed into an aura, she could imagine the extent of its power. However, there have only been 3 individuals who were able to obtain the murderous aura in the entire Xingqiang continent, and no one else has appeared again. Bewitching's voice was filled with a bit of emotion. This kind of inheritance makes people jealous, but it is also incredibly difficult to obtain. Bailey Hongzhuang appeared calm and indifferent. The existence of such an aura was already extremely extraordinary. Although it was only 3 people, the strength of these 3 people had greatly improved. These 3 people should all be famous figures of the Xingqiang continent, right? Not bad. Between you and me, there is no need to worry or hide anything. These 3 people achieved great fame in the history of Xingqiang continent, but it's been a long time, and they are no longer in this world. Bewitching's lips curved into a warm and charming smile, and his arms tightened around Bailey Hongzhuang. Normally, Bailey Hongzhuang always had a strong and resilient appearance, but now her gaze filled with curiosity made him feel loved and happy. His Hongzhuang, his wife, would only show such a side to him. I see. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded her head lightly, and a glimmer of contemplation appeared in her clear eyes. It seems that 1,000 years is enough time for many things to happen. In her past, the three abysses did not exist, but the Shengxian continent was a vast territory and had abundant resources, always containing many hidden places. If she hadn't liked exploring back then, she wouldn't have traveled here because of the Ring of Chaos. Since you're so familiar with the bloodstained abyss, have you been there? Bailey Hongzhuang raised an eyebrow over her phoenix eyes. It seems that Bewitching must be someone who frequently undergoes training and experiences. Even though Bewitching is the young master of Tiangang sect, the higher his status, the more heavier the burden. In a sect, how numerous are the outstanding cultivators? Bewitching can only solidify his position by constantly improving his own strength and not letting anyone catch up. Come to think of it, based on his thorough understanding of the bloodstained abyss, he must have been there. Bewitching's lips curled up in a warm and mellow smile, as his gaze, clear and focused, looked beyond the carriage, faintly revealing a hint of yearning and nostalgia. Back then, it was Master who told me about the situation in the bloodstained abyss. He was also the one who took me there for the first time. Bailey Hongzhuang noticed Bewitching's expression, and her eyes gradually softened. It seems that Bewitching's master is a significant figure to him, both as a father and a teacher, holding great importance in his life. Suddenly, Bailey Hongzhuang realized that all along, she only knew that Bewitching was raised by his master, but she had never heard anything about Bewitching's parents. Why is that? For a moment, Bailey Hongzhuang's mind was filled with various thoughts, but she couldn't be sure if her conjecture was correct. When Bewitching refocused, he noticed Bailey Hongzhuang's distraction. Affectionately, he reached out and waved his hand in front of Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes. Wife, why are you thinking so seriously? Bailey Hongzhuang snapped out of her thoughts, a sweet smile appearing on her lips. It's nothing. Although Bailey Hongzhuang didn't say anything, Bewitching noticed the flash of doubt and complexity in Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes. Obviously, Bailey Hongzhuang must have some thoughts. Bewitching's expression was gentle, and his thin lips parted lightly. Wife, if there is anything you wish to say, you can tell me. Between you and me, there is no need to worry or hide anything. Bailey Hongzhuang's heart stirred slightly. Bewitching had always been able to understand her emotions. Although she had hidden them very quickly, Bewitching still noticed. However, it's not that Bewitching was skilled at grasping people's hearts, but rather that he paid special attention to Bailey Hongzhuang. Bewitching paid attention to her every move. That was why he caught the fleeting change in her eyes. Bailey Hongzhuang leaned on Bewitching's shoulder, her left hand wrapped around his waist. Only then did Bailey Hongzhuang raise her head and look at him. Seeing Bailey Hongzhuang's appearance, Bewitching knew that he was right. The broad palm indulgently rubbed Bailey Hongzhuang's head and said, Ask me. You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support. And don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.